A scream sounds out across the battlefield, the first audible break in the battle-hardened professionalism of the Templar forces. Blood is everywhere, spilling across enough of the ground that even my dulled senses feel the sharp smell clawing up my nostrils. My dragon, weathering countless arrows and spells despite its invisibility, turns anyone not protected by tree cover into paste. My Ozoid white carves through those trees with just as much ease as it carves through people, enemy swords flashing to bisect its body only for the severed parts to be harmlessly reabsorbed, alongside the flesh and souls of its victims. Its golden body runs red. My many other surviving risen, mostly flying monsters of various sizes and persuasions, harass the Templars from all angles. They're directed by Manus and Ice Guy, both of whom hang back for that purpose, too useful to sacrifice like pawns. And then there's me. I can only imagine what it must be like to fight something that instantly kills anyone before they can even get close. The Templars aren't stupid, they know they have to stay away from me. But as I run through the middle of their formation, moving from Inquisitor to Inquisitor, they often find themselves without anywhere to go. They're correcting this flaw, spreading out and ensuring they have room to dodge and room to fire on me. But once I'm sure they know to fear me, I start sending illusory copies of myself to threaten multiple directions at once, scattering their organization anew. I feel, all around me, as the enemy's morale starts to break. I am so damn tired. I feel a group of Templars on one side of me intend to dodge as one on the opposite side prepares a talent. I preempt their movement, ducking and flowing around the beam of red light that scours the spot where I had just been standing, engulfing the tree it ends up hitting in flames. More attacks fly towards me from a half-dozen other directions, some dangerous but most useless. I ignore the basic arrows, letting them break against my armor as I leap and weave around magically powered shots, explosive talents, and other heavy impacts that could knock me off course. I kill the heat beam user, eat him, and carry along my way, corpses collapsing in heaps around me whenever people brush too close. I am so damn tired. My shoulder twitches as I swallow more souls, a thick, bulging mess of fleshy tentacles growing ever larger from the stump where my left arm once was. They slither and flop with frustrating imprecision, rubbing uncomfortably against each other as they grow slick with blood. My blood. The damn tentacles are nothing but a liability, a giant pulsating weak spot uncovered by my armor. The wounds heal over quickly whenever they're opened, but at this rate I'm eventually going to start losing consciousness. My body is going to run out of mass with which to make more flesh and blood at some point, and I can almost feel myself getting lighter. I need to eat something, but there's no time to stop and chow down on Templar meat. The souls will have to do for now. I recognize, dimly, that I just considered cannibalism and didn't feel a single shred of disgust at the idea. I guess I'm already eating the souls, so why not the bodies? If anything, that's way less of a moral problem. Whatever. There's better food back home. I hope I can go back soon. I am just so damn tired. Stop, I call out, letting my voice boom over the battlefield. The Templars ignore me, of course, but that's a good thing. I'm giving orders to my troops. I promised I wouldn't attack any retreating Templars, and I won't. I slow down, stop running, and simply stand still as Templars warily give me a wide berth, their commanding officers barking at the rank and file to avoid engaging me. Well shit, okay. It's over. It's actually No, wait. Not everyone is retreating. Just most of them. Shit. They figured out that their rank and file is doing little more than feeding me. I guess that makes sense. This isn't their first time fighting a threat like me, whites probably get stronger the more Templars they kill as well. They saw things weren't working, so they're backing off, leaving specific units to do the fighting alone. It's annoying, because it feels like an abuse of my kindness, but I promised, so whatever. If anything, this is my fault. I can't say I mind not having to wade through slightly dangerous fodder, and I at least got a major chunk of the Inquisitors they brought before they wisened up. Now then, the groups that have jealousy in place of relief. The ones still tensed for the kill. The ones still bursting with terror because they've finally seen what they're up against. The ones that aren't retreating. I still have to deal with them. But I take my time, scanning their souls and making my best guesses as to what talents I'm up against, trying to assemble some idea of their plan to fight me. None of the people left behind feel as powerful as Arden, or anywhere close, but that doesn't mean they can't be dangerous to me. I'm not dumb enough to think that the right combination of weak talents can't wipe me out, it's just still going to be less likely to work than an Arden blast to the face. I should have the advantage here. Though to my annoyance, but not my surprise, the squad full of people I know is among the ones staying to fight. Fine. I suppose that's where I'll go. My minions can handle the others. But Jalissa? Lark? Melik? Bentley? People I've laughed with, people I've helped, people that have helped me. They're mine. I walk their way, taking my time and letting the retreating Templars fall back in an orderly manner. It still takes a while, between the corpses and logs they have to trudge through and the huge berth they give me and my now stationary undead. I flinch with surprise, however, when I unexpectedly feel one of the retreating Templars die. Glowering, I let go of my weapon. Nora, I hiss. Go fetch to kill. She flies off, and I silently seethe as I wait for her to return with the bug man wrapped up in her chain. Most of the surrounding forest has been felled, so I get a lot of startled looks from retreating Templars as I retrieve a struggling Hiverock soldier from the treetops, his sword soaked with blood. You heard me order you to stop, I remind him. Yes, he confirms. At least he's not stupid enough to lie. You killed a retreating Templar anyway, I say simply. You are a ruler, to kill from above says slowly. You are an ally. And you are a queen. But you are not my queen, Athanatos of Skin. I have my duties. I did not anticipate that they would contradict your orders until you gave them. So you'll keep following your queen's orders over mine? I ask. Yes, he confirms. It is what I am. I sigh. Fair enough. Nora, cut off all 4 of his arms. She does, her chain and blade moving in 2 clean swipes. I kick to kill from above to the ground. Does this sufficiently inhibit you from following orders? I ask him. I believe it does, he hisses, clear, sticky-looking blood oozing from his new wounds. Cool, I grunt. I'm sure we can get my girlfriend to fix you up after this. She'll love finally having an excuse to see how you work. I will resist ideological inspection, he informs me. Do I care? Yeah, I guess I do. He's been a big help establishing our little town. I resume heading towards where I feel my former acquaintances waiting for me. I give to kill from above 80-20 odds of bleeding out or just getting stabbed through the face by a passing Templar as they retreat, but he's a resourceful guy so I won't be that surprised if he makes it out of here somehow. I don't really care much either way. I just want this to be over. I have to deal with old friends first, though. I step through a cluster of still standing trees and see them with my eyes for the first time. Of course, that hardly means much, since they all look basically the same. Templar armor does that. Though it looks like Jealous Iveta has a captain's helmet, so that's interesting. She's in charge. Heh, she must hate that. I don't exactly have my hopes up, though. For one, it's obvious they've prepared this place as a battleground. I see and feel metamancy glyphs all over the goddamn place. They've set up near a small pond which will probably help the girl with the watery soul somehow, and they've all settled into combat-ready stances, the feelings in their souls indicating that they're mentally reviewing whatever their plan to kick my ass happens to be. Lovely. I pump mana into and consequently annihilate every metamancy glyph that ends up in my range, but otherwise I just keep approaching without making any aggressive moves. They, likewise, don't attack me. But I feel as though it's probably going to fall on me to start a conversation, and I'm not sure how to do that. Well, I suppose there's always old reliable. Hey, I grunt, nodding in greeting. How's things? Despite the exceptional din of the surrounding retreat, awkward silence still manages to somehow stretch between us. Did the evil, mass-murdering necromancer just ask us, how's things? The water girl asks. My girlfriend says it's legally not mass murder if you do it to people that declared war on you first, I answer flatly. That's okay, I mean, that's not untrue, but... Xavier. Jalissa barks. Alright, she answers. Sorry, Captain. No, I insist. I want to hear the but. Genuine curiosity here. Though of course, instead of indulging me, a number of the glyphs I destroyed while walking towards them suddenly reappear behind me, outside my reach. The water woman Xavier, I guess, but I doubt I'll remember it. Unsurprisingly has a water talent, and, with Bentley grabbing and somehow seeming to support her, moves a huge mass of the stuff up into a big ring around all of us. The glyphs activate, freezing the water into a huge circular ice wall that traps us all inside. The older man I don't recognize uses his talent on the wall, though so far as I can tell it doesn't seem to do anything. Still, I find myself rather incredulous about the whole situation. Really? I ask. This is your plan? To force me into close quarters where I'm strongest? To give yourselves nowhere you can run? We don't want to fight you, Vita, Jalissa insists. Then leave, I counter simply. Jalissa looks away, glancing at the pointlessly armored figure that is Lark. Lark doesn't seem to be in great shape, emotionally speaking. No idea why, though. I barely know her. Maybe all the blood is getting to her poor little monster core. Her soul is super interesting now, actually. Her outer shell works like pretty much any other person's soul would, and it sort of acts like a buffer between the void bits which seems to be supplying her a completely different set of desires and instincts and her brain, which does the actual piloting of the body. The curious thing to me is why her brain doesn't also have those same Vrothizo instincts, but I guess maybe it does. I don't know, I should leave brain theory to Penelope. The point is, most of the people here seem wary, terrified, and determined. Lark, meanwhile, just feels like she got hit in the head with a hammer and can't think about anything other than how painful it is. Except that she's not injured. It's not that simple, Vita, Jalissa tells me. It's absolutely, completely, 100% exactly that simple, I disagree. Just leave. The church won't accept that outcome, Jalissa explains. We'd just end up having to come back and fight you later. Right now, though, we're cut off from the outside world. Harvey is trapping us in a giant silence bubble to prevent you from sending orders to your undead, but it also gives us a chance to talk without other Templars overhearing. Oh, shit, I hadn't even noticed the silence spell. I can probably just throw my voice outside the bubble, but that's still pretty clever of them. More importantly, though, I like where this is going. I smile, hefting Nora and sticking her head first into the ground, leaning on her as a show of non-aggression. I'm listening, I tell her, smiling slightly. Captain, the sound bubble guy, whose name is Harvey, I guess, grunts warningly. Don't worry, Harvey, this isn't against our orders, Jalissa dismisses. It's just a non-violent solution to them. Well, mostly. Mostly? I ask, quirking an eyebrow. Our squad exists so Lark can kill you, Jalissa says. Through animaverism. But if you two instead have a battle that ends with Lark subduing you enough that the higher-ups can be convinced that it's possible to believably contain you, then we should, eventually, be able to transition things into your plan. The story becomes that Lark can defeat you, but not kill you. So you become our weapon against ours, and she becomes your keeper, I guess. That way we can all. Vita, I know it's asking a lot, Jalissa says. Well, no. Honestly, it's shitty. It's awful, it's unfair, and puts you at a disadvantage when you're currently in a position of strength. But it's also the only way we all get on the same side. It's how everyone gets out of this alive. Or, I point out, holding my temper in, you could all just leave. I would if I thought that would help, Jalissa promises me. It will, I grunt. Just leave. That won't stop this from happening again, she insists. I know you don't want to be our enemy. You said as much. And helping us fight ours is exactly the sort of thing that will get people to start trusting you. But you have to understand that, after everything you've done, you have to make concessions in order for us to accept that first step. She makes a helpless gesture, half shrug and half concession. Yeah, she agrees. But it's the strongest I have. Well, ain't that the story of your life, I grunt, and I'm not too proud to admit I feel a certain satisfaction at the flinch it elicits. What about you, Melik? Is this your, thanks for saving my mom from a mind control slime, present? Did the Templars ever tell you that their backup plan if I failed was to burn Lisha village to the ground with all of you still inside it? Yes, actually, Melik grunts. Galdra mentioned it. I blink with surprise. He's serious. You know my talent, he shrugs. They didn't give me a lot of options. That's rough, buddy, I nod sympathetically. Wanna join my team instead? Hey, Watergirl yelps, breathing heavily from her previous talent use. Don't poach our squad mates in the middle of a battle. I raise my eyebrows. So she's one of your slaves, then, Melik concludes, seemingly resigned to the fact. Figures. Was it even really a slime controlling you, or did you just want her power? It was really the Nora controlling me, I promise him. I won't pretend she deserved what happened to her, but I can assure you she seems pretty happy now, at the very least. I'll take you to see her, if you want. Hey, I resent that, Nora says. Wait, who said that? Watergirl asks. I did. Nora announces, and I somewhat hesitantly let her go so she can float under her own power, showing off a bit. I'm a revenant. And yeah, that's weird and things are pretty different, but I'm still me. I'm still Nora. Wait, did you say Nora? Bentley asks, horror creeping through his soul. You turned Nora into a scythe. Bentley shrieks at me, and I wince. Look, I never found a good humanoid body for her, and she ended up really liking that one time she was a scythe. I explain hesitantly. So now she's a scythe person. I promise, she asked for this. I'm doing my best. You're not Nora, Bentley insists. Nora would never be okay with something like this. Oh, I'm sorry, do you become a completely different person whenever you change your mind about anything? Can't we still be friends? Bentley, who is this? Watergirl asks. You know this scythe lady? She used to be on my hunter team, Bentley explains. She was my best friend. Ouch. Was? Guess that's my answer, Nora grumbles. Well, hey, for the record, I'm cool with being friends with an awesome murder scythe, Watergirl declares. Since we're apparently just waiting around and having a friendly conversation with the great grand heathen of the forest over here instead of that fight to the death I was expecting to happen, can I ask why she has a bunch of tentacles growing out of her body? My arm got blasted off by Arden, I answer, shrugging. And my body just likes to grow tentacles, I guess. I just kinda have a constant stream of mostly uncontrolled biomancy constantly turning me into a mini mistwatcher. Wait, seriously? Watergirl asks. Damn, that's super cool. I mean, it also sounds like it might be kind of annoying, but it's still cool. Okay, I like her, I admit, jerking my thumb at Watergirl. Are you sure you guys can't just leave? I don't want to fight any of you. I'm actually a boy, Watergirl says. I blink with surprise, before squinting at her soul a bit harder. Are you sure? I ask. My question seems to hit her like a runaway cart, and I'm not even going to try to parse through all the emotions that spring up as a result. It's not important right now, No, the way I see it, I have two issues that actually require my attention. Firstly, why are we still standing around and talking? Not that I mind or anything, but I've already refused Jalissa's offer and they've already refused my request for them to leave. So are they stalling for something? If so, what? And of course the second question is, why haven't you said anything, Lark? I ask. I mean, let's be honest, you're the only one who feels even kinda threatening. So what's your plan? You wanna eat me? The armored Vrothizo breaks from her daze for the first time, her attention locking on me. Ugh, is she taller than me now? Everyone is taller than me, dang it. When I make myself a better body, it's going to be tall. How many people did you kill? Lark asks me. Huh. Can't say I expected that question. What, like, just now? I ask. I don't know. Between me and all of my undead, probably hundreds. Why? There's so much blood, she says. So much death. You killed so many, but you spared me. Why? I shrug. It's not really that complicated, Lark, I tell her. I kill people that try to kill me. I don't kill people that don't try to kill me. I feel like that's a pretty normal stance. So when you stop trying to kill me or anyone else, for that matter, what reason did I have to keep fighting you? And to that end, I raise my hand up over my head, letting Nora fly into my open palm. Her answer trails off, but I find myself not caring over much as my senses suddenly pick up something exceptionally powerful rocketing towards the battlefield. It's Galdra. She's on her way here. I weave a kinemancy spell to create attack orders outside the silence bubble surrounding us, but it gets blocked by some metamancy bullshit. Okay, I see how it is. I crouch down, readying to strike. The kinemancer preventing me from getting help is in the back, so Melik will be my first target. I need my dragon to bust me out of here. Do or die, Lark. Jalissa shouts. Or both, Lark answers quietly, and suddenly she's on top of me. I start moving towards Melik the moment Lark leaves my range, but less than a second later she's back in my face. But this time, I'm ready for it. I jab Nora towards her like a spear, and as Lark twists around to dodge, Nora's chain detaches. I take the sword strike head-on, trusting Nora's talent and my armor to handle it as Nora twists around with her chain and cuts into the Vrothizo, her blade slicing through the Templar armor like it's not even there. Lark hisses as we put a gash in her side, retreating out of tentacle range a second time. She's using Nora's talent. Bentley announces. Take the scythe away from her. He's yanking on the metal inside me. Nora shouts at me. It's Melik. He's pulling me in. Pain screams through me before I can decide as Lark manages to take a huge bite out of my unarmored arm tentacles. I hiss with fury as I hear her own pain recede as a result, vicariously tasting at the pleasure she gets from eating me, flesh and soul. I don't lose anything important, but it still hurts like shit. Worse, she doesn't let up her attack, striking at my hand hard enough to loosen my grip. Immediately Nora is ripped outside my reach, and Lark steps in to bite my armored shoulder. Too soon, I hiss, as Nora's talent stops her teeth dead. I punch Lark in the face as hard as I can, breaking half the teeth she tried to bite me with and spraying black blood everywhere. With Nora and I separated, I've got maybe 10 seconds before she's too exhausted to keep using her talent on my armor at this distance. That's more than enough. With Melik occupied with keeping my scythe from chopping his head off under her own power, I rush for the ice walls and start popping every metamancy glyph I feel along the way, weaving my order to my undead once again. Sure enough, I've broken something important, and my spell goes off. They've had more than enough time, I shout with magic. Smash the ice walls around me, then kill every Templar that isn't retreating. And the best part is, the sound bubble goes both ways. No one stuck in here with me knows I've given the order. Inside the bubble, all I hear is clanking noises as Lark's gauntlets and boots hit the ground. Her face bloody, she rushes at me once more, claws and talons out. And now she's even faster. I feel my troops rush this position as Lark crashes into me, her broken torso armor bursting as she frees her second pair of arms on the way. I can't block her six-limbed flurry of blows unarmed, but I don't really need to. All I have to care about is her teeth. I'm simply too damn tough to flinch much from her other blows, even as claws rake through my mask and gouge cuts across my face. I don't want to fight these people, I don't want to kill them. So all I really need to do is wait for my undead to smash through the ice walls hemming me in, get Nora back, kill everyone else, and then leave. Are you trying to kill me, Lark? I growl at her, trying to make a grab for her throat but being forced to back off as she snaps at me. Are you sure you want to push me to do the same? What else am I supposed to do? She shouts back. This is what the Watcher wants from me. She reaches her arms around to fire webs behind me, cutting off my escape. So I walk forward instead, grabbing her wrists with fleshy tentacles and yanking her towards me for a knee in the gut. Is that so? I ask. Then there's only one way that ends. She's far faster than me, but I'm stronger, tougher, and have fought monsters for longer. I don't need Nora or any other weapon to deal with her. Even my newly grown faux tentacles are strong enough to hold her down, spin her around, and force her to walk directly in front of me as I approach Melik. I've offered plenty of times to let you all go. I shout at them. Do you really want to die that much? I don't understand you. I don't understand any of you. Bentley rushes forward, his weapons raised, ignoring Jalissa's shouts to stay away from me. I'm tempted, very tempted to kill him and make an axe counterpart for Nora, but I just fondle his soul a little and he collapses from fear. Weak, just like he always was. As he continues to fight with Nora, Melik finds himself struggling to escape as I approach. Behind me, my dragon smashes the walls of ice that are preventing my escape into frozen powder, and I feel that Xavier woman try to grab it all to attack me with. I pull Lark closer, holding her back firmly against my chest as I wrap my fingers around her neck. Then the chaos begins. The many Templars that had been left behind in formation start dying once again, my troops starting the slaughter once more. Manus and Ice Guy jump onto my dragon's back, flying off to engage Galdra before she makes it here. She literally won't see them coming. Just let Nora go, I demand. And I'll let Lark go. Then we can all go. You guys, your troops, me, my troops. Do anything else, and all of you die. My attention on Melik, I'm immediately relieved to feel the fight leave him. His intention to give up is clear, along with the rest of his squad. Except Lark, I suppose, but it doesn't feel like she actually wants to kill. My physical senses suddenly cut out. My body thumps to the ground behind me. Huh. Well fine, then. I let my tentacles sink downward, finding my corpse and feeling around inside it for purchase. Grabbing on, I let myself fill my old vessel, flowing through the insides and letting my power take it once more. Honestly, my body is much more comfortable, all of a sudden. Sure, my head has been vertically bisected and I've lost the tentacles that were replacing my arm, but nothing in here is moving. At least not on its own. My heart no longer throbs in my chest, pulsing fluids to every corner of my innards. My lungs no longer feel the urge to suck in and expel wet breaths. My body is calm. The joy of it almost makes me calm as well, but not quite. Death it is, then, I try to say, but one half of my head falls to the side and all that escapes my throat is a wordless rush of air. I suppose that's fine. I burst forward, not holding a single bit of strength back as I feel the telltale rip of my muscles tearing. Though this time, I truly don't have to care. My body is already dead, and my muscles provide nothing of value anymore. I close the distance between myself and Melik with a single leap, grab him by the face with my one remaining hand, and slam his body into the dirt below. I feel him lose consciousness immediately, letting go to snatch Nora back out of the air. I should have known better than to try to spare them. They're not worth it. Never were. I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. But they'll suffer first. Bentley rushes at me again, so I swing Nora at his waist to cut off both his legs. Everyone dies. Everyone is food. All but the one I promised. My one remaining eye swivels in my belly to stare at Jalissa. Only you, my tentacles spell out for her in cursive. She orders a retreat. Too late, little jelly. You had your chances. Far too many of them. My dragon dies. My revenants die. I feel them shatter in sequence, and soon they are joined by countless others. Galdra the Annihilator approaches, and I snarl in rage. The water girl rushes forwards to try to help Bentley, so I grab her and hurl her at the Kinemancer in the back, shattering the armor and bones of both. My tendrils rush forwards, ready to rip out the souls of my victims, but Lark moves with impossible speed, severing them with teeth and quill before I can devour my meals. She attacks me next, biting my exposed flesh but finding herself unable to pierce my skin. Foolish girl. I'm dead now. Nora can make my body just as invincible as her own. I grab her head, rip her off my body, and snap her neck, letting her collapse to the ground. Before I can feast, however, the air around me turns to fire. My armor, my clothes, and the very ground I'm standing on all vaporize instantly, Nora's talent straining to keep us both intact. I let a pulse of myself into the world, blue mana shattering yellow and ending the spell as I glower up at my new enemy. Galdra the Annihilator. She's here. But she can't kill me, not when I'm like this. I leap up at her, Nora's chain extending to cleave her head from her shoulders. She's fast, though, flitting away before we can get in range and letting me fall back to the ground, where yet another annihilation spell hits us, full force. Souls, I roar at her, using mana to speak the word and destroy her pitiful spells simultaneously. Right, yeah, duh, Galdra sighs, scratching the side of her helmet. I knew that. Stupid question, really. And then the spell resumes. The burning, all-consuming heat of annihilation flares to life around me, following me as I try to dodge, letting up only in the moments I force it to with my own mana. Which is something I can only do in bursts, while Nora's soul strains more and more under the power needed to resist incineration. Galdra starts supplementing her annihilation spell with projectiles to harass me with and further strain Nora's talent. I continue to dodge and weave, letting my mana bloom into the world as often as I'm able to give Nora rest. But Galdra is right, I'm losing this. I should have taken Nora and the dragon to personally fight her, not leave her to a bunch of worthless Templars. Now I don't have any way to fly. And to make matters worse, I feel a tug again. Melik has regained consciousness. He's badly shaken up, but his jerks and tugs on Nora's body are enough to be a problem, and I've been focusing so much on dodging Galdra's attacks I'm no longer in range to just soul kill him. Or anyone else on his team, for that matter. Shit. You're dumber than you were last time, Galdra comments. You fight like a wild animal while dead. The instant after I destroy her annihilation spell with another pulse of mana, she uses a different spell. Ice walls solidify into existence from the air around me, hemming me in before I can destroy the spell that creates them. And beneath me, the ground starts to boil. I let out a pulse all around me again, but it doesn't seem to stop what's happening. If anything, it makes it worse. The heat is already there. She'd been gathering it and collecting it below me in order to make a trap of molten dirt and stone. My feet start sinking down into the red, noxious liquid floor. The moment Nora stops using her talent, I lose my legs. And then her annihilation spell restarts anew. Time to see if this really works, then, Galdra muses. Stay back, everyone. More and more mana gathers around me. More and more heat. Nora and I start to cook alive, and not even my mana pulses give her relief. Her soul is straining, being pushed past limits she's never reached before. I swing her at the walls hemming us in, cutting loose massive chunks of ice that sink into the lava pit that's now caught me up to my waist. Wait, part of me thinks. If I cool this off now, won't it just solidify around me? But the idea is caught in a swarm of fury in desperation, an unrelenting deluge of survival needs. I have to cut myself free. I have to kill Galdra. I have to devour them all. But I feel Nora's talent start to fail. I feel her desperation, her pain, the quiet breaking of something deep inside her soul. I feel her decide to focus on protecting me, even at the cost of herself. And finally, as the inferno continues to rage, I feel her break. So the part of me that still thinks coherent thoughts decides to let go. Nora flies out of my hands, caught once again by Melik's talent. I know I don't even have 10 seconds this time. Nora's talent deactivates the moment her soul loses consciousness, something that I've never even seen happen to revenants before at all. I feel my body dissolve into ash, pain screaming through me as the threads of my soul which hold me inside it do the same. Trapped in my own corpse, I burn. I have to leave. I need a different body. But they're all too far away. I can't reach. I'm tired. I am so damn tired. But I'm not dead. Yet. As my corpse dissolves to nothing, with me burning inside it, I leap. Helpless. That's the emotion that has defined my life for as long as I can remember. Even the beginning, the single most pivotal moment of my life getting my talent was just helplessness magnified 1,000-fold. Every day I woke up helpless, paralyzed by my own mind. And so I worked as hard as I could, I pushed my mind as far as it could go, I trained myself and became one of the strongest people in the world so I could join the Templars just to once again find myself helpless when my team tried to take down Vrothizo. I was helpless when I woke up in the hospital, helpless to prevent my transfer to the Inquisition, helpless to make a real difference at Site 4, helpless when Vita slaughtered everyone on her way out, helpless when she dragged us all through the forest, helpless when Victoria begged for help escaping, helpless when she died for the attempt, helpless when I suffered through decontamination, helpless to stop my superiors from starting this pointless fight, helpless to do anything to stop it, and now I'm wrist-deep in the blood of a Templar under my command. Sweet, beautiful Bentley, bisected by a former friend. His legs lie next to me as my hands press his gaping waist, fingers flashing through a healing spell that my triage training says won't be enough. That I should be leaving him to die, because a lost cause is a waste of resources that might be needed healing Melik's concussion, or Xavier's internal damage, or Harvey's broken bones, or Lark's everything. But I'm not letting someone under my command die. I can't. If I don't at least try, I'll break. I may be helpless, but I always try. What more can I do, when I'm just a normal woman dealing with veritable gods? Come on, Bentley, I call to him, pushing as much healing magic into his body as I'm able, trying to staunch the flow of the arteries and veins dumping his blood onto the dirt. Stay with me, Templar. I spare a glance Lark's way, noting a lot more wrong with her than just her neck. Though that is a prominent issue, since it's turned completely the wrong way around. She lies on her back, but her face is still in the dirt, black blood leaking out of her shattered mouth. Both of her arms on the far side of me are missing as well, burned to nothing for the crime of being too close to Vita when Galdra started her attack. The attack, as best I can tell, is going in Galdra's favor. Vita seems to be trapped and is slowly being annihilated. Melik is still trying to get that damn scythe away from Vita, the tough bastard, but I have to ignore all that and focus on Bentley. A High Templar has stepped in and I'm trusting her to handle it. As for Lark's injuries, well, I can still hear her heartbeat. Vrothizo are too goddamn tough to die from something like a broken spine. She'll be fine, I promise Bentley. Just stay awake for me. Can you do that, Bentley? Focus. Stay awake. I say that, but my logical mind pushes through my horror and tells me it's a lost cause. Bentley is losing blood far faster than I can heal him. Behind me, I hear the scythe finally slap into Melik's waiting palm, and the roaring fury of Galdra's magic annihilates Vita soon after. But I can't spare a glance to care. Xavier. I call out. If you're still conscious, I need your talent on the blood. Trying, ma'am. I hear Xavier's response as nearly a sob, the poor kid struggling to crawl towards us with all the bones he's broken. He's too far away and too low on strength. My team is on it, though, Watcher bless them. Harvey's leg is twisted badly enough for me to know it's shattered, but he still staggers onto his hands and knees, loops one of his arms around Xavier, and starts dragging him closer. I watch and feel Bentley's blood quiver in the broken veins, the flow slowing and diverting enough for my magic to start sealing things up. Holy shit, we're doing it. We're actually going to. An icy chill pulses through my spine as I see a spiritual tentacle flit past my vision. No. No, 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 no. I keep working on Bentley, stabilizing him, sealing his wounds over, but I can't resist glancing around. That was Vita, right? She got away. Where is she now? I don't see her anymore. Her scythe bursts into action, ripping itself out of Melik's hands and flying off. Shit, shit, shit. No, it doesn't matter for now, focus on Bentley. Did you see anything, Inquisitor? Galdra barks. Report, now. I sigh. If I lie and say no, will it end this witch hunt or make it worse? I have no idea. I really don't. So I tell the truth. I did, I admit. At least, I'm fairly sure I saw a tentacle, but... I look around, checking on the souls of my entire team in sequence, as well as Galdra and myself. Bentley's soul is pulsing with his talent, which seems to be contributing its fair share towards keeping him alive. He's normal. Lark's soul is the same as always, woody and beautiful. I cast a quick kineticism spell to retrieve stashed supplies that I left nearby, among which are some emergency rations for her. Hopefully there'll be enough. Melik is next to her, ripping off his helmet as bloody vomit trails down the inside and the front of his face. Shit, he needs medical attention. And while his soul certainly seems overexerted, he otherwise looks normal. Xavier, likewise, is breathing hard and crying, presumably from some combination of stress and relief, while Harvey has collapsed to the ground beside him, conscious but exhausted and wounded. Their souls also have a distinct lack of tentacles, as normal as always. Galdra and I are similarly as I remember us to be. Everyone in the general vicinity has their soul intact, as far as I can tell, I report. How sure are you that you saw something? Galdra presses. I frown a little, trying to quantify that as I stagger over to Lark and lean down next to her. 60%, maybe, I admit. It was a brief flash of a tentacle, which I couldn't follow. I was also busy stabilizing my team at the time. I see, Galdra says, scowling as her eyes pass over my squad. Where's the scythe? It flew off, I tell her. I'm not sure where. Shit, Galdra swears. She's probably the scythe, then. But of course, we'll have to operate under the soft assumption that you're Vita until we can get another Inquisitor over here to corroborate your claim. I grimace. Yeah, that makes sense. If I'm not Vita, then my observations clear everyone here. If I am Vita, I'd obviously lie about my own soul, but everyone else still can't be Vita. Either way, my team is clear but I'm not. Understood, I nod. May I continue to administer medical aid? Galdra seems to think for a moment, then nods. Yes, we need Lark on her feet. You heal her, I'll get the rest. Hey Lark, you're okay, I whisper to her. That's a brave girl. Stay strong. That's it. I slowly place the rat in what's left of her mouth, which she struggles to swallow, but thankfully I don't have to stick my arm down there to push it in. I would have, of course, but it's nice to not need to so soon after losing my last one. The rat doesn't seem to have a noticeable effect on her regeneration rate, but I suspect that there's a lot of serious internal damage getting dealt with first and continue feeding her our supply, which eventually manages to halt her bleeding and reconnect her spine, and that's something my senses can hear happen bit by bit, much to my discomfort. By the time I'm out of rats, Lark is still missing 2 of her arms, but she's breathing normally and no longer looks like she's a flinch away from biting my throat out. You did good, Lark, I assure her, watching Galdra float around and cast magic on my squad. She never drops below 20 feet in the air as she does it, which is frankly a ridiculously long healing range. I failed, she croaks back at me. I reach down to carefully scratch the base of her ears the way she likes. You got our entire squad through this alive, I tell her. I'm not sure anyone else can say the same. That wasn't me, Lark insists. She wasn't even trying. She could have killed us the moment she got close. She just let us live because she knew us. I suppose she's probably right about that, so I let her assessment pass without challenging it. She does seem to treat the death of people she knows and people she doesn't know with a world of difference, doesn't she? I agree. But regardless of the reason, you did your duty and we all live to tell the tale. That's worth a lot. I hated every moment of it, she mutters. I've done nothing but fight for my entire life and today still had more death than anything I've ever seen before. I don't think I'm cut out for this, Captain. Couldn't we have just left her alone like she wanted? We don't get to make those decisions, Lark, I remind her gently. Well, maybe we should, she counters. Then we'd have to leave the Templars. Well, maybe we should, she repeats. I never want to have to do anything like this again. I nod solemnly. I've been having similar thoughts lately. Yeah, I agree. Don't know what else I'd even do, though. Being a Templar has been my goal since I was a little girl. But now's a rough time to be one, that's for sure. I was a lot more proud of myself when I was just patrolling the city and helping people out. I was good at that. War just makes me feel helpless. There's not much to say after that. Our surviving forces and Vita's surviving undead do a final skirmish before both groups break off, spilling the horrid scent of offal ever further through the forest. 13 Inquisitors manage to survive the fight, and Galdra brings them over to confirm my report. Everyone's souls look normal. No sign of tentacles. Why are we in full retreat? Galdra snaps at one of the Templar commanders. Intelligence suggests she still has a base camp. That could be where the Lich fled to. We're not in any shape to search the forest for a camp, let alone fight the Lich again, the commander insists. In no small part due to your departure. Where have you been, Galdra? Arden died an honorable death, but they shouldn't have had to die at all. You were expected to be with us. Galdra huffs in frustration. Skyhope was attacked, she announces. It was a surgical strike from sleeper agents in the city. The Inquisition has been entirely wiped out. The survivors here and at Sites 1 through 3 are our only remaining anti-animancy forces. Watcher's eyes, the commander swears. How did they wipe out the entire Skyhope Inquisition? Well, based on examinations of the bodies, we believe First Lady Vesuvius was involved, and possibly compromised by animancy. Her whereabouts are currently unknown, but we've managed to secure her research lab. Frowning, I back that thought up a little. I'm not surprised that she was a sleeper agent for an animancer. No, that's pretty surprising, and absolutely terrifying. Watcher's eyes, I need to go home and sleep for a week. With my squad banged up this badly, that might even be what we get to do. A girl can dream, I suppose. We'll need to survive the trip home first, though. Leaving the battlefield happens quickly, but not quickly enough. The stench of blood and gore and death suffuses the forest now, and with the battle over the scavengers have come out for the buffet. Most ignore us. Why wouldn't they, when a smorgasbord of already slain prey exists in a convenient pile already? But even despite this we're faced with a terrifying onslaught of tooth and claw. Countless monsters swarm us, and while Galdric can incinerate them with a thought, she can't be everywhere at once. Since I'm almost entirely intact, I'm one of the people on the front lines trading blows with monsters twice my size. It's terrifying at first, my mind constantly on the verge of overloading into an episode, but I manage to hold out, if barely. The longer the fight goes on, though, the less I worry about myself and the more I worry about Lark. Unarmed and unarmored except for her tassets and greaves, she steps out onto the battlefield, ignores formation, and just starts ripping monsters apart. She fights like a completely different person, all teeth and rage as she lashes out against the horde. I watch her tackle beasts 3 times her side, being clawed and bit and taking wound after wound just to heal them off as she bites back. She is, in this fight, of Rothizo, even more so than when she was gnawing off my arm. I think it's only the fact that she avoids our defensive lines that prevents her from being gutted like the monsters, and when the swarm is finally done she returns to us drenched in blood, with all of her limbs and teeth recovered. She falls in step behind me without saying a word. "You okay?" I ask her. "No," she answers simply. "Yeah. Dumb question, I guess." "Hey, Lark." Melik pipes up, staring at the ground as he walks. "I wanted to ask you something." "Go ahead," she allows. "When Vita grabbed you, you could have killed her right away, right? With your spines. But you didn't. You waited until she threatened me." "Well, she was threatening everybody, but yeah." "Why'd you wait?" he presses. "Because I didn't want to kill anyone," Lark says simply. "Not even her." He doesn't seem to react to that, leaving us to march in silence for a while before finally answering. "If you ever lose control again," he eventually says, "I won't try to kill you." I was wrong. And you deserve more than that. Lark glances his way impassively. "Suit yourself." I let myself smile, just a little. At least there's some good to come from this. My squad made it out alive, and they'll grow as people from it. Well, at least hopefully. I'll need to closely monitor everyone and ensure their mental health is taken care of while the biomancers tend to their physical needs. But I think it will be best to wait at least a couple days before I decide who does and doesn't need me to intervene. Right now, everyone is just tired. The trek back to Skyhope thankfully doesn't end with any other Templars dead. The whole city is a mess when we get back, though, no doubt owing to Lady Vesuvius' alleged attack on the Inquisition. The attack sites are quarantined off, which of course means that most of the largest Templar facilities aren't available for use, but I get called for a debrief anyway in a cobbled-together command center within the city. "Based on your observations, Captain, what would you say are the major blunders that lead to the failure of the operation?" I'm asked during the meeting. Attempting it in the first place, I answer immediately, which doesn't seem to make command very happy. "To clarify, Captain, what tactical blunders lead to the failure of the operation?" one of them answers, entirely unamused. Which is fine, since I'm not exactly joking. Assuming that not accepting the Lich's offer of alliance against ours is not a valid answer, I begin, and the looks I get from command indicate that it isn't. I would say a delayed and inefficient response to the Lich penetrating our lines caused the most damage, followed by our orders to not allow Lark to engage the undead under the Lich's command. The majority of our casualties were caused by a lack of response to the High Templar level threats, which we had no answer to due to Galdra's absence. That is why we should have had a proper backup plan, I answer instead. I'm dismissed not too long after that, with orders to stand by. As one of the few surviving Inquisitors, I'm apparently quite valuable now. Now that I think about it, will I even be allowed to leave the Templars if I wish to? I am an Animancer, and I'm not sure if any remaining Inquisitors have the ability to remove memories. Shit. Well, reduced options aside, for now I need to return to the barracks and check on my team. To my mild concern, All of them are in the medical ward, but I quickly relax as I see Harvey, Xavier, and Bentley are simply resting next to one another while Lark and Melick hang around to keep them company. I join them, interrupting their current conversation with a brief greeting. "Are you sure you shouldn't be one of the people in a bed, Melick?" I ask him. He's sitting in a chair next to Bentley's cot and looking like he's about to pass out. "I'm fine," he insists. "Just tired and hungry, that's all. They're bringing food around soon, I think." "Of course," I nod. "Xavier, Harvey. How are you holding up?" I'd ask Bentley as well, but he's clearly unconscious. The biomancers have done all they can for now, and they're letting his body rest and regrow before coming back around for another series of spells. "I've had worse," Harvey grunts. "I haven't," Xavier mutters. "Honestly, I'm pretty shaken up, boss." "Well, near-death experiences will do that to a person," I reassure him. "It's totally normal." "I mean, yeah, there was that," Xavier dismisses. "But I'm also trying to figure out why the soul reader kept thinking I was a woman." "Oh, right," I allow, confused. "She did do that, didn't she? That was odd." "Oh, yep," Xavier mutters. "Super weird and quirky and not at all deeply, personally mortifying." "Something you're not telling us, Xavier?" Harvey asks jokingly. "No." Xavier snaps back. "At least I don't think so." "I don't know. If you've been a woman disguised as a man this entire time, I'll be impressed," Harvey continues. "Especially since we've bathed together." "I'm a man." Xavier snaps back at him. "I'm a man. It's just." He looks away, muttering the next bit quietly as if afraid of anyone else hearing. "I just wish I wasn't, sometimes," Xavier admits. "Do other people not feel that way?" A brief silence descends, each of us perhaps considering our answer. "Can't say I ever have," Harvey answers first. "I don't think it's something to be ashamed of, though." "Yeah, I agree. Women are pretty cool. I can understand being jealous of us." I watch Xavier carefully as I say that, trying to judge how he reacts. This is a new one for me, after all. It doesn't look like my joke worked, though. Damn. I hate having to trial and error this. "I've heard that Lady Vesuvius publicized a series of biomancy spells that could change someone's sex over the course of a few months," Lark comments idly. "Lady Vesuvius is missing, and probably a traitor," Xavier grumbles. "Maybe," Lark admits. "But this was a while ago. You might be able to find other biomancers willing to do the procedure, but I doubt it will be cheap." "It doesn't matter anyway," Xavier mutters, looking away. "Why not?" Melick asks. "Because it'd be weird. I've already been a man my entire life." Xavier answers. "And besides, Bentley wouldn't want to date a woman." He and a few other members of my squad turn to glance at me, since having a relationship with a squad mate is technically against policy. I just shrug. "I didn't hear anything," I lie brazenly. "I'm probably going deaf." That gets a few chuckles, at least. The conversation trails off after that, none of us having advice or even context for Xavier's situation. I didn't know souls could be male or female, but I suppose if they can, and Xavier has a woman's soul in a man's body, well, I don't actually have any idea what that would be like. Probably very strange, at minimum. My squad and I continue chatting about various things late into the night, though before long most of them start to pass into slumber. Melick didn't even get out of his chair, now leaning on the foot of Bentley's cot as he drools protectively over his squad mate. It's kind of cute. Only Lark and I are still awake, and while we don't really want to leave, we've made somewhat of a silent agreement not to speak either. We don't want to wake up the boys or whatever it is Xavier's situation makes them. I'll have to look into all this tomorrow. For now though, I doubt I'll be able to pass into rest any time soon, and especially not in the medical ward. There's too much activity, too many people moving around, and too much stress in the air. There's also been a fly buzzing about, making a nuisance of itself. I watch it with mild annoyance as it circles around the room a half-dozen times before finally landing on Melik's hand. It dies instantly, its tiny spirit sucked out of its body, pulled down Melik's arm and entering his soul. The fly's corpse flops unceremoniously onto the bed as I freeze in terror, trying desperately not to react. Oh Watcher, Vita is alive. She's alive and sleeping peacefully inside my squad member's body. What should I do? I jerk upright, but not in time to stop the bile from rising up my throat and ending up all over the foot of Bentley's cot, the memories in my head warring for dominance as my parasite of a soul clashes with my stolen brain. That monster, Vita, hides inside me, having burrowed into my soul to use the husk as camouflage. Except I am Vita, hooked up to a body and a mind that isn't my own and struggling to deal with the second person that's now leaking inside me. This isn't fun for either of us, I try to think to myself, except I'm not sure which me is doing the thinking and there's no answer because there's only one of us in here. I've already gone insane. Melik, someone shouts with surprise, and I instinctively recognize it as my name, but it's not my name, but it is. I'm not her, I have always been her, this is my body now. Sorry, I choke out. Nightmare. It's not normal to vomit after a nightmare, the woman continues, and it's Lark, she killed saved me. Are you feeling nauseous? Yes, I admit. Very. I'll get new blankets for Bentley, Jalissa says, sounding exhausted. What? How does she sound exhausted? I just know she's exhausted, I can feel that. Let's get you into bed as well, okay Melik? There's no answer, but I know I pray because sometimes I need all the help I can get. How foolish. The Watcher will never help me. I need to get this under control. I need to get her out of my soul. I need to accept that my soul is gone. I need to get his brain to stop influencing me. Help. Someone help. Can Penelope fix this? Wait, Lady Vesuvius is an animancer. Penelope is my girlfriend. I let myself be guided to a bed, too busy falling apart to do anything but obey. My body is shivering, sweating, and I feel it like I used to feel it, like I've always felt it, without threads of soul dominating my perceptions and making everything numb by comparison. I don't have to claw at the insides, feel the blood pulse inside me, or think about every wet breath. My real soul, the parasite controlling me, is once again squeezed into an eggshell far too small for it, but thankfully I have a new trick to keep it hidden. Vita has some sort of extra-dimensional tunnel connecting her soul to a pool of mana, and I can wedge myself partially inside that, alleviating the pressure of being inside Melik's now hollow, too small shell. Hey, I never wanted to be a shell. I never wanted to be a parasite. I never wanted your memories. At least I can agree with myself on that. Do you think you're sick, Melik? She asks me simply. Or just stress and exertion? I think I just need rest, I answer her. The biomancers said my head was fine. I'm going to get you some water, my captor tells me, and I nod in confirmation as I try to spit the taste of vomit out of my mouth. It's weird that I can taste this. Now I really want one of those scones from the stall on 5th Street, they're my favorite. Wait, I have a favorite food. Ugh, what kind of picky, rich-ass moron did I possess? Food is food. No. Stop freaking out about Vita hollowing out my soul and focus. Melik is still influencing me, and his soul isn't functional anymore, which means the problem must be his brain. I'm attached to his brain, and his brain is the thing currently thinking my thoughts. My brain doesn't match my new soul, my soul doesn't match my new brain. The memories are mixing up. My soul and my brain are each trying to do exactly what happens when there's a mismatch due to animancy, they're trying to correct each other. But rather than making a few small changes or a series of big changes over a large period of time, my soul and brain are two completely different people. Yet there's still only one me. Time will tell if that me ends up Vita, Melik, or something in between. Though to my simultaneous horror and relief, I have a sinking suspicion that Vita is bigger than Melik. More. She is almost certainly going to win. Whatever I am, it's something closer to the Mist Watcher than it is to human. I can turn this body into anything I want. I can function without a body. But I can't function without a soul. After all, I am my soul. Always have been. So the surviving Inquisitors aren't decontamination specialized, which means we're falling back on mundane anti-animancy protocols, Jalissa tells me. I've just got to ask you a few questions and whatnot. Don't worry, we're doing this with everyone. There's an element of untruth to that. Jalissa isn't doing this to everyone, she explicitly isolated me because she thinks I'm Vita. Which I am. But of course, I can't call her out on that without admitting I'm Vita, because Melik wouldn't be able to tell she's lying. Do I want to admit I'm Vita? Can she even help? Would she want to? Okay, ask away, I tell her. What's the name of the trainee that was slated to be part of our squad but didn't graduate, she asks. Gina, I answer immediately, even though I never knew her. She was my friend, after all. What element of your talent is classified? Long-range metal detection, I answer. Though if these questions are to determine if I have knowledge Vita doesn't, it's worth noting that she's aware of that aspect of my talent. Wait, do I even still have my talent? I reach out for the familiar extra sense I've had for years, finding that while I can still feel souls from within my dead shell, I have not retained my ability to feel or control metal. I suppose that's to be expected, but boy is it inconvenient. I like my talent quite a bit, and I also need to be able to pretend I have it or I'll be found out in a heartbeat. I might still be able to tentacle cast by squirming around while in my hidey hole, and I know a lot of spellcasting theory, so I should be able to whip up a manipulate target dust kineticism spell. And while I don't have anywhere near the range on it that I used to, I can sense delicious metal by just feeling out mana flows. The issue is that, unknown to everyone but myself and Theodora, my talent isn't actually kineticism. We don't actually know what it is. She said it looked like a completely uncategorized form of magic, and I unfortunately never memorized the spell formula she derived from it. Why would I? It's stronger when just used as a talent, and I was trying to keep it a secret anyway. Hopefully whatever spell I invent to spoof it won't give me away. She could. She absolutely could, with what she did with Nugas. She just never did, because she'd lose her valuable research tool. Wasn't Penelope the one who convinced me to revive her in the first place rather than just keep her soul safe? This is Lady Vesuvius' fault. I'm a monster dating a worse monster. How was that not obvious before? But she wasn't always this bad, was she? I wasn't always this bad. Melik? Jelisaveta says, and I realize she's been trying to get my attention for a while. Huh. I sputter back. Sorry, I just got distracted. What was the question? How does Vita know you can sense metal, she asks. It just kind of came up while she was freeing my village from mind control slimes, I admit, shrugging. Which was an insane situation all around. My mother told me that she was someone else now, but she still loved me, and she was going to protect me. From people that wanted to imprison me in my own body, even though that's what she was doing to my family, and then Vita just shows up. Tells me she can solve things. Freeze Song just by looking at them. I thought she was a savior, even after the tragedy of Theodora's death. What bitter irony that Penta was there the whole time. That she turned into a monster I had to try and kill. That I am her, rolling my inner eye at these very thoughts. Right, the Lisha village incident, Jalissa nods. In that case, I'll ask questions from before then. When did you first move to Lisha village? The interrogation continues, my captain asking questions from my past that Vita couldn't know, assessing my memory and trying to figure out who I am. Well, joke's on her, I'm still not certain of the answer to that question myself. But I can easily supply the answers thanks to Melik and Vita's combined memories. The only tricky part is keeping them straight, and not giving Jalissa too much information. She's not trying to figure out if I'm Vita, after all. She knows I am, somehow, or at least she knows that something Vita-related happened to me. But I think showing that I'm also still Melik is the right play here. She cares about us. Her squad. She'd sacrifice a lot for us. And while I doubt she'd be the ally of Vita that murdered Melik and stole his body, she'd certainly be the ally of Melik but possibly also Vita's host. She'd want to try to save me. To save him. I want to try to save him, too. I am him. So I should tell her. But what if she betrays me again? Or what if someone overhears? Do I have the time to care? Will either half of me like what we become? Fear of death. That's the problem here. On one hand, I might die, to some degree, if I stay this way. On the other hand, I'll certainly die if the Templars find out about me, as well. And then I'll be stuck in this situation all over again, but worse. I don't know what to do. So, I ask after Jalissa seems to be done with her questions. Did I pass? Am I the real Melik? Yes, my captain lies. No worries, it's just procedure. Of course, I say, swallowing back my desire to spill and tell her everything. I have no idea what she knows or what she suspects, but everything I just told her made her feel better. There's hope in her. I don't think she's going to voice her suspicions, so I don't think I should risk it. Hey Melik, she says, flashing me a closed-lipped smile. One of her ears flicks, shaking her poofy hair in a funny way I can't help but smile back at. The captain says that you're being quarantined in your room in case you actually have a stomach bug. We don't want anyone sick near the critical condition patients. Makes sense, I mutter, accepting a biscuit. But I don't think the quarantine will work very well if you and the captain keep coming in here. Well, the captain is in the bath washing up for exactly that reason, and, I can't actually catch or carry disease. As long as I don't touch you, I should be fine. Really? Totally immune. Man, Vrothizo are such bullshit. Though I guess liches are too, so I probably shouldn't throw stones. A bit of a shame she's not going to touch me, though. Well, I'm fine, I insist a bit more forcefully than I intended, because apparently this body also responds to attraction the same way Penelope does, by being a grumpy asshole. Wait a minute, is this body attracted to Penelope? I can't stop myself from thinking about my experiences in the public bathhouses and uncomfortably confirming that yes, this body is definitely attracted to women, and especially to Penelope. She must never know. Fine or not, you're still stuck here, so make sure you ask me if you need anything, okay? Lark insists. I will, I sigh. Thank you. You're welcome. Melik? Lark asks, snapping me out of my thoughts. You okay? You look kinda freaked out. Yeah, sorry, I sputter. Just thinking about everything that happened. Sorry. Yeah, Lark agrees, sitting down on Harvey's bed across from me. Yeah, that was a lot, huh? A lot of death. Well, sure, there was that, I agree. But I just mean that I was a huge asshole to you at a point where you really didn't deserve it. I'm sorry. The best part of this apology is the fact that all of me owes her one, Vita for her bullshit, of course, but also Melik for being a grumpy dick and trying to kill her that one time. Which I failed miserably at. So embarrassing. I have a bit of morbid curiosity about whether Melik was attracted to her before, after, or because of that, but ultimately no part of me wants to know the answer. I'm still very uninterested in being attracted to anyone, my dick be damned. I do have one of those. All glory to the ability to pee while standing, I guess, but that's not worth having an easy-to-hit weak point, in my book. Although boobs are also a weak point and no longer having them is nice. Either way, this body is much less comfortable than my brief stint as a revenant inside my own corpse, but that seemed to make me go a little berserk for whatever reason. Unfortunate. Maybe if I keep pretending to be a Templar, I'll have enough time without anyone out to kill me to try and figure out a better body. Downside, I'll have to help out the Templars, who I hate. It's a legitimately tough decision. Although I could just play along and do Templar work in order to get into a position from which to assassinate Galdra. That's not a bad plan. I don't agree that I didn't deserve it, Lark says quietly, snapping me back to the conversation. So it's fine. As far as I'm concerned, you have nothing to apologize for. She stiffens, her eyes going wide as she stares at me. Oh, shoot, right. I'm trying to not traumatize her. We can be friends anyway, though, I continue. If you want. Sure, she says quietly. Okay. But how did you know their names? Gina told me, I answer, happy to not have to lie. Oh, she says, relaxing slightly. Of course. Gina. Lark seems caught off guard by that, breaking into an unexpected chuckle. I suppose she was, wasn't she? Yeah. You're right. Then she starts laughing again. I grin, not quite sure what's so funny, even with the slightly improved social competency I have compared to being just Vita. But Lark doesn't laugh much, so I find myself enjoying it too. The rest of my day is similarly surreal. I lie in a comfortable bed, occasionally having food and water delivered to me. Sometimes I need to get up to pee, which is in some ways extremely awkward but in some ways so normal I don't even think about it. I practice the spell I'm designing to spoof my old talent when I'm alone, breaking each element of it into tiny, minimally powered chunks for testing just like Theodora taught me. Spell design is actually pretty captivating, and before I know it the penumbra of the island above hits us and night starts soon afterwards. My body and soul are both exhausted, and I pass easily into sleep. I wake up not knowing who I am again, the chaos of multiple clashing memories pounding along the inside of my skull. But I vomit less than I did before, more easily settling into my new situation. I have to accept the reality of what I am, now. Vita needs a brain. Melik needs a soul. Framing things as a cooperation with myself helps avoid the dissonance that just leaves me a confused mess even if I know there's really just one me. Harvey returns on the second day of my quarantine, apparently in good enough health to handle being in the same room as me while I'm sick. He's as stoic as always, taking over the duties to keep me fed and hydrated from Lark, much to my disappointment. Still, whenever he does speak to me it's from the perspective of an old friend. It's nice. My soul aches, trapped as it is within Melik's shell, clogging my own passageway to my mana with its excess mass. I'm far weaker, hiding like this. No tentacle yoinks, far less mana access, and the shell blocks off vision from my eye, greatly reducing my sensory detail. But I can hatch at any time I choose, and then I'll be back to full strength in moments. Well, full spiritual strength. Melik's body is far weaker than Vita's old one, and the optimization process for it has yet to begin. Perhaps my soul is waiting to be fed, still recovering from whatever damage death and repossession did to me. Of course, I'm in no hurry to let my soul start altering my body again. After all, growing a physical tentacle or new eyeball will be a literal dead giveaway. At least I don't think I lost any memories, on either end. I only gained new ones. My third day of quarantine passes much the same as the last. My fourth day has me not vomit at all, even on awakening. Rest and introspection has done me some good, I suppose. Either that or my brain and soul have simply finished attacking each other in an attempt to normalize and are just going through the standard updates. Who knows? Either way I'm a shell of my former self trying to spoof my old life in order to survive, and while that's abjectly terrifying it's also kind of nice. I'm sure it will go wrong sooner or later, but I don't want to give up my life so easily. And besides it'll be nice while it lasts. Staring down at the calm water of the bath, I find Melik's face staring back up at me, wearing my blank expression. It's both familiar and surreal, as while I've seen this face many times before in two different sets of memories, I don't really see it as mine anymore. It also reminds me a lot of that time years ago when Penta's Penelope brought me to that fancy bathhouse and I saw my old body's face for the first time I could remember. How odd it looked. How not quite me. Familiar and surreal. That's quite a stare you've got going. Xavier says, stepping next to me and staring down at the water as well. Feeling a little melancholy. I give her an unamused glower, since it feels natural in the way that means it's probably what Melik would do in this situation. It's been another couple days since I decided to continue pretending to be him, and I've since stopped vomiting, been given a clear bill of health, and mostly normalized my identity. Mostly. As I both expected and feared, Vita won out. I have Melik's memories, his experiences, his habits, some degree of his likes and dislikes, and I'm sure I've been influenced in countless other subtle ways, but I still feel like Vita. I'm a soul trapped in a meat shell, not a human man with a monster hiding inside him. I'm Melik largely insofar as I'm comfortable pretending to be him and answering to the name. It's sad. We both hoped he'd live through this. I'd wondered if I could give him his body back. But I think, at this point, even if I succeeded at leaving this body without killing it, the end result would be leaving something that wasn't quite Melik behind. Maybe even a copy of myself, except I'd be trapped as a human forever, devoid of the freedom that is my soul. I'd never wish that on anyone. That pun was shameless, I complained to Xavier. But I guess I'll give you a 3 out of 5, since I've actually never heard it before. 3 out of 5 from Melik. Xavier exclaims, bobbing her head consideringly. That's not too bad. I'll take it. But anyway, you done looking? I don't want to disturb the water if you're having a deep conversation with your reflection, but I also want to get in the bath. What, don't want to join me in despondently staring at your reflection? I tease her. Xavier answers awkwardly, scratching her head. My reflection and I aren't really on the best of terms. Oh. Being in a male body obviously bothers her. It doesn't really bother me, my previous experiences as a human female make it a bit strange to bathe with a bunch of men, but thanks to this body I'm not attracted to men anymore. It's an interesting detail, it proves that my physical form is a driving element of my attraction, but I'm not entirely sure that means my soul isn't. Like, Melik is very into women, physically speaking. I don't want to be into women, though, since I still find attraction to be annoying and uncomfortable, and I think I've been experiencing a much lighter version of Melik's usual reactions as a result. Either way, as much as her soul is female, Xavier is physically still a muscular, masculine piece of meat, and my new body feels no discomfort at joining her in the bath. It's kind of strange to think that, before I took this body, I don't think I would have recognized Xavier as masculine even if she waved her dick in my face. My perceptions are all screwed up, now. In a lot of ways, they make things more clear. In most ways, they just make things more complicated. But hey, I can't help with Xavier's problems anyway, and the most Melik way to respond to them matches with the most Vita way to respond to them as well, pretend they don't exist until it becomes immediately relevant. So, do you think Lady Tentacles is still alive? Xavier asks me. Are you kidding? Xavier asks incredulously. You saved the day by grabbing it in the first place. Sure, the lich got away, but if you hadn't helped Galdrick kill her we might all be dead. Well, that isn't how it went down at all, though I suppose I have to make sure my answer is whatever one Melik would give. I doubt Galdra really needed my help, I answer noncommittally. I don't think I won the tug-of-war at a pivotal moment, it felt more like Vita just let go. Why would she do that? Xavier asks. Maybe to possess it, I answer, shrugging. Maybe just so her friend didn't die with her. Yeah, I can believe that, she agrees, nodding. She was weirdly, I dunno, honorable. You know, for an evil monster. I carefully try not to wince at that. I don't succeed, but thankfully Harvey steps into the room and distracts Xavier from my reaction. General Vesuvius always said that the enemy's honor is something to be exploited, not praised. Harvey grunts, sinking into the bath beside me. That causes my lips to quirk upwards a bit. Yeah, that definitely sounds like something Penelope would say. But what's with my face moving on its own all the time? It's kind of dangerously inconvenient. Wait, which General Vesuvius? Xavier asks, to my surprise. Senior, he clarifies. The current Lady Vesuvius' grandfather. Well, current insofar as she won't be officially removed from her position until she's confirmed to be dead or alive, but I can't imagine her life as a noble will continue even if she's found to be a victim of animancy. Perhaps especially not then. Did you serve under him? Xavier wonders, quirking an eyebrow. Not during wartime, Harvey answers, shaking his head. I'm not that old. But he'd often roam around military installations after the war, giving speeches and keeping morale up. He was a very charismatic man, if also a very ruthless one. Still, he makes a good point. I'm not so sure that he does, Xavier answers. Like yeah, being honorable about things often gives your opponents an advantage on the battlefield, but it gives you lots of advantages off the battlefield. If both sides are trustworthy and honorable, neither holds a war advantage but both hold the peacetime benefits. And like peacetime is better. That's an overly simplistic way of looking at things, Harvey argues. After all, the advantages of being honorable aren't tied to how honorable you actually are, only to how honorable your opponent thinks you are. That's where Vita went wrong, I realize, carefully referring to myself in the third person. No matter how reasonable her promises, the Templars weren't going to agree to them because they didn't trust her. Tactically, I would agree that we called the retreat far later than we should have, Harvey muses, but the biggest blunder was allowing the enemy to sabotage the Inquisition while we were away. We fell for and died to an enemy diversion. But frankly, that's all on our commanders, not us. We followed our orders. Sometimes that's not enough. I suppose that's the nice part about not making our own decisions, I respond dryly. There's less pressure to take responsibility for them as well. Harvey chuckles at that, to my surprise. It might not have worked if they told us about it, Harvey points out. If we knew, then the moment we were on her side we would have tried to remove it. I imagine Arden could have done that quickly enough to save their own life, and then well, we'd be screwed. Yeah, I hear you, Harvey agrees, sighing. I definitely hear you. War is awful. And water is wet, Xavier mutters, lifting a ball of it out of the bath with her talent and quickly shaping it into a bunch of different symbols, animals, and other configurations. Hey Melik, do you think I could maybe cast like you do? By shaping stuff with my talent instead of my fingers? Water doesn't concentrate mana the way metal does, so no, I answer. What if I put metal dust in the water? Xavier asks. Then it would just sink, I assume, I answer. Damn. What if I got the water moving in a fast current so the metal couldn't settle? Cut me some slack, I had a concussion, I grumbled defensively. Also, I didn't have Melik's talent to grab it all back off the ground. As long as I don't end up chaperoning a bunch of kids who say, drunk, but mean, wasted, I think I'd enjoy that a lot, Harvey nods. Could definitely use it after everything that's happened. I don't think I want to get drunk, I hedge. I've never been fond of drugs or alcohol, since most drinkers in my part of town often quickly upgraded to heavy drinkers, the kind that are dangerous to be around. But now, of course, getting drunk might also mean I say something stupid and end up dead. That's fine, Xavier shrugs. I don't think Lark can get drunk and I'm still going to invite her. We can invite the captain too, make it a whole squad thing. Well, minus Bentley, I guess. I can't believe it'll take them 2 months to regrow his legs, I comment. Didn't the captain get her arm back in 4 days? Bad time for her to go missing, isn't it? I sigh. Bad time for her to turn traitor, too, Harvey grunts. Willingly or otherwise. I mean, would there be a good time for the army-slaying plague mage to turn traitor? Xavier points out. No, I suppose not, Harvey admits. It feels like this country is completely going to shit and there's nothing we can do to stop it. How do we face the island's most dangerous animancers without an inquisition? Yeah, if only one of those dangerous animancers had offered to help us, or something, I drawl, unable to contain a hint of annoyance. Then we wouldn't be in this mess. Perhaps, Harvey answers non-committally, and we don't speak anymore for the rest of the bath. Expecting trouble? Harvey asks, raising an eyebrow at me. Call me paranoid, I answer flatly. I'm just not comfortable going out unprepared after everything that happened. He nods, patting me on the shoulder. To my surprise, I don't feel uncomfortable at the unexpected touch. I guess Melik's trust in this man spilled over to me. I shrug, about to make a comment about how I'm broke anyway, but I guess I'm actually not broke. Melik gets a Templar's salary, after all. Maybe I'll buy enough food to make up for it, I answer, giving Harvey a slight smile back. I feel like I could eat enough food for a whole army. Except that's evil. I remember back when I knew keeping a soul inside me might end with the Templars after my head, but I did it anyway because protecting people from death was the right thing to do. And I still believe that, it is the right thing to do. But now I've experienced the actual consequences of the Templars being after my head. Now I'm being actively looked for. Now I know what will happen if I get caught again. I don't think I'm a good enough person to risk going through that again. Are you, Melik? There's no response, of course, but I feel like he isn't. His instincts and his slowly changing brain concede the point as they soak in my experiences on the matter. Pointlessly sacrificing myself for some random soul would just kill everyone involved without helping anything. But eating the soul? Eating people? It doesn't seem as appealing as it used to, even if I can't think of a logical reason to avoid it if given the opportunity. Am I regressing? That's quite annoying, if so. Or perhaps if I look at it another way, you could argue I reversed my regression. The Mist Watcher pretty much just exists in a cycle of constant consumption, not seeming to put effort into anything beyond ensuring the current status quo provides steady meals. What if I need a human brain to think like a human, but the longer I use a human brain the less human that brain inevitably becomes? That's frustratingly plausible. I did have mana threads inside my own brain, after all. Something to keep in mind when I design myself a superior alternative to human bodies, I suppose. Melik has some instinctive resistance to that thought, but it's weirdly complicated. Whatever. Melik's brain has its annoyances, please stop being attracted to Penelope, it's just going to make cuddles needlessly awkward, but it's altogether not so bad, he's a smart kid and this somehow seems to translate into making it easier to think. Like just in general. Thinking about any given topic takes less effort. I form conclusions faster. I'm more confident about my conclusions in a broader range of concepts. It's weird and nice and holy shit my last body was ravaged by malnourishment. Real 0 out of 10 pick, past me. No, actually, I probably can't. As much as I want to speak with Lynn, she's probably under more scrutiny than ever before since she worked for Penelope. I need someone a bit less suspicious. Someone who Melik would actually have a reason to talk to without any red flags. Someone he either knows or is connected to by a degree of separation or two at most. Melik doesn't really have friends outside his squad, which is quite sad, but maybe someone else does. Certainly not Lark. I doubt any of Harvey's war buddies would want to help me. I think Xavier is similarly lonely, despite her gregarious personality. Is there anyone that Bentley knows that might be able to help? Wait a second. Holy shit, I totally forgot about Orville. I think I might be a bad friend, I mutter to myself. Yeah, a little bit, Xavier agrees, walking up from behind and bumping me with her hip as she passes. But it's cool, we like you anyway. Come on, let's go get drunk already. I realize, belatedly, that I've been wandering around the barracks as I think to myself. Another Melic habit, maybe? Who cares? Doesn't really matter. I nod to Xavier and start following her as she wanders around and picks up every member of our squad that I haven't previously bisected. Yeah, okay, cutting Bentley in half is also more evidence towards maybe being a bad friend. We move as a group towards a tavern that Harvey apparently recommends. Are you sure I'm allowed to be out here, Captain Jalissa? Lark whines nervously, hugging herself with one pair of arms while the other wrings their hands together. Nope, Jalissa answers flatly. But I'm pretty sure Command can't fire me anymore, so I don't really give a shit. Lark glances around, her ears pressed flat against her head as she desperately tries to avoid eye contact with every single person staring at her as we walk down the street. She is, after all, in civilian clothes, ones she apparently knitted, or sewed. I don't honestly know the difference, with her own claws, meaning they're entirely beautiful white silk. Which, if anything, draws even more attention to her pitch-black skin, hair, eyes, teeth, and so on. She's very obviously inhuman, and worse, very obviously a Vrothizo to anyone who's even remotely familiar with them. But of course, walking awkwardly in a group of casually joking humans means that the stares directed her way average more towards confusion than terror. Lark herself is actually the most horrified person on the street, which is rather hilarious. That doesn't really seem like a good reason, Captain. Lark insists. I can't see Lark blush, but I can feel it happening. She sure won a lot of support, huh? I can't say I'm not a little jealous. Still, I find myself nodding along. Jalissa gives me a look for a moment, but nods. She probably caught my double meaning, but whatever. She already knows I'm here. Somehow. Well said, Jalissa agrees. So don't worry about it, Lark. Make some non-squad friends if you can. If anyone gives you shit, your squad is here to support you. That's what we do. And if Command gives you shit, rest assured that your captain just publicly asserted that she knowingly disobeyed, and is entirely to blame, Harvey adds, flashing a rare grin of his own. Such moments are always the best time to violate orders. Just don't get drunk and cause a disturbance or I'll kick your asses myself, Jalissa grunts. Is there anyone in your squad you could actually beat in a fight? I ask her, smirking. If you're drunk enough, sure, she answers, and we all laugh. The tavern is a modestly sized wooden building, consisting of a bar counter and a smattering of round tables on which maybe a dozen people are already drinking, laughing, eating, and chatting. It seems like a fairly mellow place, not too loud or too dirty, the former of which I find especially appealing and the latter of which Melik seems to consider extremely important for some reason. Most people are engrossed in their own meals or conversations and don't bother to even look at us when we come in, but the worker behind the counter and a handful of people at the bar all give us a double take as we sit down at the counter with a Vrothizo in our party. Jalissa waits until I sit down and purposefully claims the seat next to me, leaving me on the edge. I suppose she probably wants to talk, but I think we'll have to jump over the big black hurdle that is Lark first. Welcome to Hearth Ember Tavern, the dumbfounded bartender manages. What can I, get you folks? Lark speaks up first since she's being directly stared at, but I don't think he expected her to respond. Oh, a mug of water, she answers hesitantly. Please. If that's all right. He blinks a few times, before saying, of course, and grabbing orders from the rest of us. I order a meal for myself, everybody else gets drinks, and I settle in to enjoy not being the person everyone is staring at, for once. It's pretty comfy. At least until a subtle little silence bubble crops up around Jalissa and I. Of course. A bit conspicuous, don't you think? I mutter with barely repressed annoyance. We're dressed richly enough that most people will assume we're just making illegal business deals, Jalissa answers quietly. As for the rest of the squad, I can just order them to ignore us. That sounds like a strategy with a very high success rate, I answer sarcastically. There's no way that would make anyone in our squad even more curious. Well, it's fortunate that Xavier is sitting on the far side of the counter, then, Jalissa smirks. I'm not really worried about her anyway. Jalissa raises her eyebrows, recognizing that word choice as the push to end the small talk that it was. Who am I talking to? She asks quietly. Vita or Melik? Sort of both, I admit, putting my elbow on the counter to rest my chin on my hand, covering my lips from curious watchers. Mostly Vita. But I have his memories, and a lot of his habits are influencing me. Is he dead, then? She asks. I sigh, taking the effort to look her in the eyes. I think for most intents and purposes probably. It was a rough merger at first, I felt like I was both of us. To some extent I still do. But now I've subsumed him, more or less. I'm sorry. I see, she says softly. The bartender passes her the drink she ordered, and she gulps down quite a bit of it. Why Melik? It wasn't exactly a conscious decision, I answer, shrugging. I just flung myself after Nora in a desperate attempt to save my own life. I missed. My turn, then. How did you figure me out? You ate an insect soul in your sleep, Jalissa answers. Shit. Okay, I need to figure out how to break that habit. Good to know, I grumble. Have you told anyone? Not yet, Jalissa answers, shrugging. Haven't decided if I should. What do you plan to do if I inform my bosses? I guess I'll head back to my village and we'll start this all over again, I answer honestly. And what happens if I don't tell anyone? She asks. Then I think Melik will stay on your squad for a while, I tell her, smiling slightly. He liked it here. I think I do too. Oh? She prompts, taking another big swig of alcohol. Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to be the big scary lich in the forest, I tell her. I want to save people. I want to help people. If I can do that here for a while, then I will. And how long do you think you can hide in plain sight like this? Jalissa asks curiously. Well, I managed it for a decade or so in my last body, I smirk. So surely I can manage at least a few months without a major Why is there a High Templar headed right towards us? I hiss. My fight or flight instinct is still screaming at me to kill as Kasha walks in, my whole body tense with the need for movement, for preemptive action. This is the woman that actually caught me 2 years ago, after all. The most direct and immediate reason I got locked away in Site 4 and ended up as public enemy number 2. So there is an element of anger to my reaction, certainly. An instinctive desire for revenge. But more than that, I'm just terrified. She captured me effortlessly the first time, and I'm not sure it would be much more difficult for her to do it now. Of course, this doesn't mean I should rush up and try to kill her, it means I need to calm down and rein myself in. Before possessing Melik, anyone with a danger sense could tell I was nearby without much trouble, but the shell I'm hiding in suppresses most of that. I'm still me underneath it all, though, tightly wounded and painfully restrained. I wouldn't be surprised if the wrong stimulus could cause my threat to come leaking out. Calm down. I need to calm down. I focus outward, finding that my need to calm myself is shared by another, the bartender, of all people. He stares at the High Templar with a mixture of stress and avarice that still sits well below the threshold of happy to see her. What are you so worried about? I ask him, trying to distract myself. Well, I'm fairly certain I'm about to make a lot of money, he answers me quietly. I'm just not sure if it's going to be beer money or insurance money. Hello, High Templar, she greets, nodding politely. Wow, Kasha sighs, shaking her head. A talking Vrothizo that wears clothes. The smart ones can have pretty interesting feeding strategies, but wearing clothes and acting polite is a first. Why is she? Oh, I get it. Kasha has been away from Skyhope since I broke out of Site 4. She has no idea Lark is a Templar, and might not even know how the whole battle against me played out. She literally just got back and should probably be debriefing right now, but has apparently decided to get drunk instead. A few other members of our squad awkwardly get up, not sure how to handle the confrontation, but Lark still seems unruffled. I'm not here to pursue a feeding strategy, she answers simply. I'm here to enjoy spending time with my Skuno, actually. She spares a glance over toward Xavier. My friends. Is that so? Kasha asks, and the air hisses. It twists and curls like a furious snake, wrapping around Lark and lifting her bodily into the air. And do your friends here know how many people you had to eat to get that face of yours? 10, Lark answers, seeming more frustrated than intimidated as the magical bindings coil around her limbs. And I'm working every day to repay the Watcher for that sin. Now can we skip to the part where you either kill or release me? Kasha is an exceptionally tall woman, needing to lift Lark over a foot in the air before she can stare up at her. She seems young by High Templar standards, probably only half a decade older than I am depending on where you measure my age from, of course. Her attractive face, at least by Melik standards, is marked with a handful of deep scars across her nose and cheek, but if anything they only seem to add to the roguish confidence Kasha carries herself with. The woman practically oozes danger, though even despite this she doesn't get a chance to answer Lark before my captain butts in. Galdra the Annihilator did, Jalissa answers flatly. Kasha opens her mouth, then closes it, shaking her head. Lark drops back down, landing on her feet and immediately turning to sit back down like nothing even happened. She's a good person, Jalissa corrects. And a damn good Templar. And you just assaulted her. Kasha groans, rubbing her face with both hands. Watchers sag at tits, okay. I'm sorry, Lark, right? I've barely been sleeping this whole past month from mission shit and I must have killed 100 Rothizo on the way. Some of them have been scary smart, too. It's fine. I'm somewhat surprised to learn I'm not the only Vrothizo that isn't a mindless, raving monster, but I suppose I shouldn't be, Lark answers evenly, having already turned back to face the counter so she can nurse her mug of water. And I did tell everyone that me being out of uniform was a bad idea. Kasha grunts, nodding at Lark before turning to Jalissa. Apologies to you as well, miss. Inquisitor Captain Jelisaveta, she grunts. I'd salute, but I'm currently off duty and I don't really feel like it. Kasha barks out a laugh. You and your squad have balls of iron, Kasha says approvingly. I've never seen someone stare me down like your little monster did. I'm tired of threats, Lark grumbles. People should either be decent or just try to kill me. Doing neither is pointless. I raise an eyebrow at that, as while I don't at all disagree it doesn't really sound like her. She was terrified the whole way here, after all. Worried about everyone judging her. Yet now that a confrontation actually happened, she's more disappointed and annoyed than anything. Ha! Well said, Kasha agrees, despite the fact that she's the one who just threatened someone. Bartender. Drinks for all these fine folks. I don't actually, Lark begins, but Xavier elbows her in the ribs. Challenge her to a drinking contest, she hisses in Lark's ear. What's a DR? Do it. Trust me, it'll be great. I challenge you to a drinking contest. Lark says to Kasha. Please don't call me that. What follows is one of the most hilariously one-sided games I've ever seen, and I take great pleasure in watching Lark utterly destroy the High Templar at it. The rules are simple, throw a ball at a target. Miss, and you take a big drink of alcohol. If both players hit, they both take a smaller drink of alcohol. The point seems to be to balance one's throwing accuracy with one's ability to hold liquor, requiring both to achieve victory, which is, apparently, acquired only through concession or by someone literally passing out. Lark, of course, absolutely dominates in both of these categories, because just as Xavier predicted, she seems completely immune to alcohol. That and, after the first few throws, Lark has literally never missed the target. Kasia even starts unsubtle cheating with her talent and still ends up with a less accurate target record than Lark by virtue of her sheer drunkenness. Still, Kasia hits more often than she misses, so both of them tend to consume alcohol every round. Ewa. For a lady who was just bragging about how many Vrothizo she killed, you sure don't seem to know much about how they work. Xavier taunts from the sidelines. She is very rapidly becoming my favorite. You look happier than I've seen you in a while, Harvey tells me. You can't tell me this isn't funny, I protest, offering him a bite of food because I truly am in that good of a mood. He accepts, proving his wisdom. Not without being a liar, he agrees. Xavier is a smart cookie. I can't think of a better set of opening rumors for our girl than playing a drinking game against a High Templar. I'm not actually sure she thought that far ahead, I admit, looking around. But you're right. This is drawing quite a crowd, and it pretty distinctly isn't drawing a mob. Harvey agrees, nodding thoughtfully. You're not sure who thought that far ahead? Xavier, I clarify. Of course, Harvey confirms. Did Xavier request to be referred to that way, or? Referred to what way? Oh shit, I called her, she. It's probably not a deal breaker if I admit the fault. Lying is weird like that. No, I admit. I've been thinking about it, so it just slipped out. Hating your own body is an unenviable position. But at least, as a Templar, Xavier should be able to afford that kind of work if she wants it. Our salaries are frankly ridiculous. Harvey barks out a laugh. That they are. I'm not too proud to admit that's why I'm here rather than back at the army. They offer a pittance compared to the church. And the hunters offer even less than that, I grumble. Yet hunters are the ones taking the brunt of forest missions while Templars spend most of their time in the city. That's life, Harvey sighs. Though with our numbers recently gutted, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those hunters start getting job offers over on our side of things. You mean like Gina? I ask. Harvey snorts. Hopefully not anyone like Gina, no. Now if you'll excuse me, I think someone needs to explain to the High Templar that she's up against someone that literally can't lose before she gets drunk enough to start causing property damage. An excellent idea, but one I might be better suited to, declares a voice that startles me hard enough to make me jump out of my chair and draw my sword. Apologies for the sudden entrance, Brown says, nodding his head. I didn't mean to frighten you. But I picked up on your conversation when looking for my friend and didn't want to pretend I hadn't heard. It's fine, I breathe, sinking back into my seat. Why you startled me, is all. This is now the second time in as many hours I've seen you freak out over a High Templar, Harvey comments, amused. I'm just jumpy, okay? I grumble. I've never fought in a war before. Understandable, given what I've been briefed about the situation, Brown allows. Apologies for intervening while you're trying to unwind. But I couldn't help but overhear the words High Templar and property damage spoken in the same sentence, and decided it was well past time to pick up Kasia. Kasia. Brown heads towards his fellow High Templar, who immediately looks his way as he calls out her name and lights up with joy. Brown. Browam, she slurs, drunkenly staggering over to and collapsing on his shoulders affectionately. This girl's really good at handling balls. Heh. Heh heh heh. Hi Brown. Hello, Kasia, he answers, patting her on the back. I cannot help but notice that you have yet to report to command, and are also extremely drunk. It's a form of teleportation, actually, Lark corrects, but Kasia groans so loudly I doubt she hears it. She talks like my mom, Kasia complains. And she's got kitty ears. Did you see them? Yes, Kasia, I have indeed seen them, Braum assures her. Bartender, could I trouble you for some water? Yes sir, the man behind the counter agrees enthusiastically, seeming to enjoy this spectacle even more than I have been. Well, I suppose he was right, he's gotten a lot of beer money tonight. No, Braum, Kasia whines. Water tastes so watery. Like really cheap beer. Such as, for example, beer that has been watered down. Braum prompts unrepentantly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly that. See, you get me, Braum. Braum the ubiquitous answers, accepting a large mug from the bartender and bringing it to Kasia's lips. Now drink your water. But then I'll lose the contest. Then you lose, Braum insists, a second clone popping into existence to help her hydrate while she protests. I hope you didn't bet away anything important this time. She motions to us, flashing Braum a closed-lipped smile. Xavier laughs and claps a few times. You have indeed, she confirms. I'm afraid I'm no expert on the nuances of rothizobiology, Braum hums, but considering your propensity to ignore other toxins, would I be correct in guessing you're incapable of getting drunk? That's correct, Lark nods. Language, Lark chides. Braum actually chuckles at that, guiding the mug of water back up to Kasia's lips, where she proceeds to blow indignant bubbles in the drink. I think we'll be going now, Braum announces. Would it be acceptable for me to return the mug later today, when I return to pay off her tab? Of course, sir, the tavern owner allows, and Braum nods his thanks. Captain Jelisaveta, it was interesting getting to meet you and your squad, Braum continues. Though I believe command will take an unfortunate interest in your decisions today. There's a pause. I will communicate your opinion on the matter, Braum answers diplomatically. If, perhaps, not in those exact words. Have a lovely afternoon. He bows, jostling Kasia slightly and causing her to make a few disgruntled noises before they both finally depart. Silence descends on the room for a few dumbfounded moments before Xavier suddenly claps her hands again. Well, she declares delightedly. I didn't expect the High Templars to be like that, did you, Lark? Braum was nice, Lark opines. Like Galdra. Wait, you think Galdra is nice? I ask. Lark shrugs. She always cared for me before Captain Jelisaveta took over, remember? She got me into the Templars and taught me a lot. I'm very grateful to her. I guess, I allow, wrinkling my nose. Nice or not, I can't stop thinking about how much Braum might be spying on us all the time, Harvey grunts. I mean, probably enough to hear you say that, Xavier answers, wiggling her eyebrows. You'd better watch out. What isn't cute is how completely on the money Harvey's worry is. I can see our tavern reflected in part of Braum's glass-like soul, his attention undoubtedly on us. I assume that attention is due to Lark, and the natural caution any person would have upon seeing a Rothizo surrounded by innocent people. But on the off chance it's because of me, I suspect I'll need to be a lot more careful. I practice sword and shield drills in the barracks yard, frustrated with how my body wars against two sets of competing instincts. Melik knows how this body is supposed to work, but his movements and instincts are struggling to hold their head above water as I fall back into my own habits, designed for a body stronger, tougher, smaller, and thinner than this one. I expect less weight, more force, more speed to everything I do. My perceptions haven't slowed down in the transfer between bodies, but my body itself has. I feel like I'm fighting in a mud pit, and the only way to break these bad habits before they start to matter is practice. So here I am, huffing and sweating away, trying to figure out if my new body actually smells way worse than my last one or if that's just my sense of smell no longer being crowded out as much by soul sensations. Any way I move just feels wrong to some part of me. I'm getting too frustrated, it's time to switch gears. I sheath my sword, taking a deep breath as I open the vial of my newly requisitioned metal dust, which jealous Avetta quietly gave me orders not to eat. I flex my hidden tendrils, shaping the mana needed for my freshly completed faux talent spell. The metal dust flies up at my command, stolen instincts trying to move it with methods that no longer work, like an amputee trying to move a missing arm. I do my best to take that instinct and shift the spell to accommodate its intent, completing the metal sigil and forming a metamancy glyph on the ground in front of me. Nice. So it all works, I just need to get fast enough and practiced enough to use in combat. It's funny, since I don't actually have Melek's talent, this whole metal dust thing is somewhat pointless. I could create stronger metamancy glyphs more quickly by simply casting a spell to make a metamancy glyph rather than casting a spell to move the metal to form another spell that forms a metamancy glyph. It's a bit silly, sure, but it made sense when Melek was doing it, so I have to keep it up in order to continue pretending to be him. I carefully assemble a few other metal formations, wary since I know a misstep in the formation could literally blow up in my face. Melek's memories have all sorts of tricks to bypass the issue though, key areas of the spell that can be kept free of metal until the very end, letting me double-check the formation before activating it all at once. I set a few new, custom glyphs on my armor, taking a running jump to test them a couple times before finally stepping on the glyph I put in the ground and getting launched high up into the air. I enjoy being in the air. Jumping high into the trees was one of the first things I did when my soul started assisting my muscles on the inside, and since then I've made verticality a key part of my fighting style, especially in the forest. Leaving the ground, feeling that brief period of weightlessness before the fall, it's a special kind of joy that I only feel more clearly now that I'm in a fresh new body. Of course, there's one major downside to jumping really, really high as Melek: I'll absolutely, definitely die. Unless I make a spell to protect me, of course. Melek already made a spell that can hold people in the air in order to try and trap Lark, and I've expanded on it a little so that it works as a cushion against all momentum. The spell basically just slows down whatever's in the range of the glyph once activated. Handy for surviving long falls, and probably lots of other stuff. Sure enough, I feel myself break rather than break as the ground rapidly approaches. I stumble into an awkward but otherwise safe landing, letting myself grin from ear to ear at the triumph. Dang, magic is kind of really cool. Getting some good training in? Lark asks, approaching me with a friendly nod. Yeah, I confirm. I still feel stiff and sluggish, but I'm at least getting to test new spell ideas. I think mobility is a big weakness for me right now, so I'm trying to come up with glyphs that will help me out with that. You do know that jumping 30 feet in the air is just going to make you an easier target, right? Lark asks me. Well, yeah. That one's just for fun, I admit. That gets a smile out of her, making Melek's heart flutter a bit. Ugh, gross. Lark is wearing her usual, casual, gear, one of her self-woven shirts and Templar leg armor, minus the boots. It leaves all her inhuman features free to move around while still being enough of a uniform to remind people that she belongs here. The part of me I'm trying firmly to ignore also thinks the ensemble looks quite good on her, particularly the snug t-shirt. Come on, body, I used to have tits. I promise they're not that exciting. Well, I also came out here to stretch a bit, so do you want to spar at all? Lark asks. Let's see, I do kind of want a rematch. Even Melek wants to kick her ass in a fight, and while I doubt I can actually win as is, it should be good practice. Sure, I agree. Sword and board, or do you want to fight me like that? Lark considers. Yeah, let me go grab my armor. I'm not looking for a real fight so much as something to take my mind off things for a while. I shrug and return to drilling as she runs off, quickly dons her gear, and returns. Then we trade out our blades for blunted ones and face off. I take a defensive stance, hunkering behind my shield as I encourage her to take the first move. I know my body can't keep up with her in any area, and while Melek would try to even those odds with clever spell work, I'm not yet used to the faux talent enough to be confident I can weave a metamancy glyph together mid-combat. I'll have to bait her into a bad position another way. She strikes towards my left, but I ignore it because it's a feint, trying to get a quick cut in while she adjusts. I startle her, but not enough to prevent her from dodging, so I settle back into a defensive stance rather than push my advantage. I'll lose a prolonged exchange of blows every time, so what I need to do is focus on counters. It's frustrating, oh so frustrating. Melik's eyes couldn't keep up with her back when the two of them sparred, but I have more than physical eyes to work with. I can read her intent directly, move my body to defend the moment she starts any given movement. The more she thinks about what she's doing, the better I can defend against it, counter it, and win small victories. But even with the training I've inherited from Melik, I'm simply not a skilled enough swordsman to make the movements necessary to catch her. I'm just a bit too slow, a bit too imprecise, a bit too inexperienced to react well. Enough to land a hit. I know what I should be doing, but I can't pull it off. My body simply can't keep up with my mind. Still, I keep her stalemated for quite some time before exhaustion starts to hit me, my ragged breaths and burning muscles slowing my already sluggish form enough that the duel falls further and further out of my favor until Lark finally disarms me, pointing her sword to my throat. Are you kidding me? Lark answers disbelievingly. That was incredible. I felt like I was fighting our instructor for most of that. You were one step ahead the whole time. Too bad you can take 3 steps every time I lift a foot, I counter bitterly. Good spar, I tell her honestly. Definitely, she agrees. You doing okay? You don't normally collapse after we fight. Well, I don't normally fight that hard, I counter. True, she concedes. But that's weird in its own way. You seem a bit different ever since the battle. Good different or bad different? I probe. I don't know if it's either good or bad, Lark answers, shrugging. You're not as broody as you used to be, if nothing else. Ha! Melik got possessed by an undead necromancer and became less broody. That totally figures. I'll choose to interpret that as a good thing, then. I hedge, shrugging. I don't know what to tell you. Fighting a massive battle and nearly dying just put a bunch of things in perspective, I guess. Lark hums, a distracting tumult of strangely sharp emotions passing over her soul before she returns her attention to me. I can't figure out what that means, but it certainly happens to her a lot. I suppose you're right about that, she says quietly. That was not a pleasant experience. Both being prevented from fighting until Vita got to us and actually fighting her were distinctly unpleasant. It's hard to imagine things going worse than they did. We could be dead, I supply. True, she agrees softly. It would be bad if you all were dead. I can't help it. I reach up and put my hand on Lark's head, ruffling her hair between her ears. She goes still, her temptation and terror warring with the subtle warmth of finally getting some desperately needed human contact. This, more than anything, I can empathize with. Our source of fear and mistrust is different. I don't trust others, while she doesn't trust herself, but we're both fundamentally people that close ourselves off from contact with anyone and end up starved for it without ever knowing. Being able to hug Lynn and, eventually, Penelope was one of those things I never knew how desperately I needed, but acquiring a circle of people I could make contact with and feel safe about it is a key part of what changed my life for the better. And while I doubt Lark would want me to ever get near her again, I can feel that she trusts Melik. My touch is awkward, since I know little about comforting people and less about petting cats, but she doesn't seem to want it to stop. I think the whole squad agrees it would be bad if you died, too, I tell her. Don't think we don't notice your word choice when you say things like that. Of all times for humans to start paying careful attention to their own language, she grumbles softly. Well, if you repeat something often enough, they do get it eventually. She looks up at me suddenly, oddly confused. I blink with surprise. It was a joke, I clarify. You're always complaining about people repeating themselves. Right, yeah, she agrees, vigorously shaking her head as I take my hand away. Sorry, just had a weird thought. No worries, I shrug. Thanks for the spar. I think I'm a bit too tuckered out for another, though. Yeah, of course, she agrees, and I retrieve my sword before heading out. I've got somewhere important to be, after all. The question is, do I go in uniform or not? Being in uniform has the advantage of turning me into a faceless Templar, which lets me blend into a crowd better in some ways but worse in others. Ultimately, I decide that I'd rather not be bothered by people needing a Templar and asking for help, since even though I'm off duty, if I wear the armor I'm expected to help. Besides, if anyone is tracking Melik specifically, they're probably already doing it. Actually, quick check, Brahm's soul looks like it's reflecting a totally different part of the city. Perfect. I remove my armor, store it in my room, and leave the barracks, heading somewhere bittersweet and familiar. I take a roundabout route to my old Hunter Guild house, scraping the edge of the city where, all those years ago, my family lived in the alleyways in a wooden shack. Nowadays, almost everything here is wood, most of the stone structures having collapsed from the Perception event and forcibly dug away. The wooden structures that now line the streets are far nicer than my rotting old shack, of course, a testament to my girlfriend's work at improving cheap building materials so the poor might be able to afford workable homes. Damn, I hope Penelope's okay. But that's why I'm out here. If I'm lucky, I'll know soon enough. I walk into the Hunters Guild and am immediately hit with a pulse of nostalgia. The building didn't suffer the fate of many others and was spared from major damage, so even after 2 years it feels like coming back to a second home. I can smell the stew from here. Unfortunately, I can't partake, I'm no longer a hunter, after all. I'm just here to meet one, since I heard he gets back from his mission today. And sure enough, while his soul is far stronger than I remember it, he's here. Orville. It's doubly a shame that I can't have any of the stew, since he seems to be sitting in the mess hall with what I assume is his team. I recognize 2 of them before I even enter the room. Song is here, which might make things awkward since they knew Melik for quite some time back in Lisha village. Fulvia is also on Orville's team, which I have to say is a remarkable coincidence. But the 4th and final member of the group is, to my surprise, also known to me. Or, more accurately, she's known to Melik's memories, but now I get to put a soul to the face for the first time. Gina? I ask, raising an eyebrow as I walk over to them. Melik, my former fellow trainee, says, looking pleasantly surprised as I walk over. Hey. I heard you're a big fancy Templar now, eh? So they tell me, I answer agreeably. Weren't you in jail? She was, Orville speaks up. But I bought her out. Ugh, yeah, I'm technically a slave now, I guess, Gina groans. Not like Orville wasn't already a slave driver of a team leader. Oh yeah? I say. Dang Orville, I'm not sure if you can be a slave buddy if you're a slave owner. I give Song a hug, since they stood up to do just that. The poisoner gives me a proud punch on the shoulder which I respond to with a grin. All the while, Orville is frozen solid by my words. Slave buddies is what I called Orville back when he was legally owned by the woman who raised him and I was legally owned by Penelope. It's the sort of inside joke absolutely no one both living and outside our squad could have known, which is why it makes a nice code phrase to announce that something mutilated is going on. After all, Orville still meets with Netta in secret, since despite being my revenant and his former owner, their relationship is far more family than property. As such, he has a massive incentive to not rat me out, what with already being my accomplice. This makes him the ideal person to send a message to my little forest town, since I can use him to send the message via Netta. I figure if Penelope is on the run, the village is the first place she'd go. Well, okay, the first place she'd go would be her secret hideout, but I don't have any way of reaching her secret hideout other than the teleportation circle at my village anyway. It hits both of those possibilities at once. And if she's at neither place, and no one at my village knows where she went, well, I have to assume that means she's in trouble. Or dead. Hopefully it won't come to that, because I have no idea where to search next. Isn't he on the squad with you know? Fulvia whispers into Gina's ear, though not quietly enough to prevent anyone from hearing. Ah, yeah, but he's cool, Gina reassures the other woman, patting her hand. Melik here's the one that got his ass kicked with me. I'm less surprised that Fulvia is out of prison, considering that all she did was beat the shit out of someone who never even bribed a guard, and the normal punishment for that doesn't usually last more than a 10 day. Gina, meanwhile, disobeyed Templar command and gave away confidential secrets, which is well, I have no idea how harsh a punishment that gets you since I've never met anyone else guilty of such a thing, but I imagine it's hefty. Not that Jalissa seems to give a shit. I made such a good decision when I spared her life. So, Orville says flatly, cutting past the handful of other conversations his team was about to start with me. What brings you here? Well, you were on a hunter team with Bentley, right? I ask, even though I know the answer. He. Subterfuge. This must be how Penelope feels all the time. Yes, Orville confirms, nodding suspiciously. Well, he's currently stuck in bed after some nasty injuries, I explain. They think he'll make a full recovery, something about his talent helping out. But I figure he's probably bored, and would love to see an old friend. I was hoping to catch you when you got back and surprise him. Orville is surprised and wary, but he only lets the former show on his face. I see, he says. I'd love to go see him. Do the rest of you mind if I head out? Nah at all, Som grunts. It was good to see ya again, Melik. Likewise, I tell them. Then I stare firmly at Gina until I've successfully quashed her urge to invite herself. Which is fortunate. Because while I know she wants to see Bentley and that Bentley would be happy to see her, it would ruin my plans to get Orville alone if she tags along. The pair of us depart, our walk down the street silent at first as I carefully check the souls in my range to ensure none of them are paying any attention to us. Even Brahm's soul reflects somewhere completely different. Perfect. So, Orville starts awkwardly. So, I answer, weaving a silent spell around us. Vita would like you to send a message to your mom. How did she get to you? Orville asks bluntly. Best I can tell, you're still alive. Are you sure you want to know? I ask him. He regards me silently for a moment, then sighs. No, he admits. Not really. Ah, Orville. He was always the member of the team with the most common sense. Tell Netta to head to the village and get news, particularly on Penelope's whereabouts, I instruct him. She'll know which village. Then have her tell you the news, then you tell me. The sooner, the better. That's it, he asks. That's it, I answer firmly. You're a friend, Orville. Vita isn't going to extort you. That's unexpectedly pleasant news, I suppose, he responds sardonically. But it's a simple enough request. I'll do it. Thank you, I reply, and the rest of the day is devoid of further plots and schemes. Orville and Bentley hang out, chatting and laughing and generally making Bentley's day, which I'm glad for. It's the least I can do for him after spilling his intestines all over the forest floor. Bentley's recovery seems to be going far faster than any of the biomancers expected, his body taking to healing like a bird to the skies. His stamina talent apparently means he can accept a lot more regenerative biomancy in his body than the average person, continuing to benefit far after the point where a normal person would start cannibalizing themselves until they had a few meals to digest. In another couple days, both of his legs will likely have finished regrowing, which is both good and bad. Good because it of course means Bentley will be back on his feet, but bad because there's no doubt our break will end soon afterwards. Once our squad is back to fighting fit, we're going to be fighting. The only question is what? The answer comes sooner than I would have liked. Before Bentley even finishes regrowing his toes, we're called to an emergency meeting by our captain. New Talsi has fallen, Jalissa announces, looking us dead in the eyes. alongside a number of smaller towns and villages around it. Reports say they've been razed to the last man. What? Xavier yelps, earning her an immediate glare from Jalissa. This is the time for professionalism. What caused it? I prompt instead, though I can't think of many things that would perform that kind of indiscriminate slaughter. Jalissa glances to Lark, confirming my suspicions. Shit. I suppose it was only a matter of time before one got big and bold enough to raise a city. We believe it was Vrothizo. Yep. How nostalgic. Me and my squad, all dispatching to fight a soul-eating monster. Though if it annihilated an entire countryside, well, something tells me this one is going to be a bit bigger than the last one. Another one of those hard-to-control smiles parts my lips. I look forward to it. Walking through the forest with a team is both pleasantly nostalgic and exceptionally frustrating, considering that I have the benefit of good company but the downside of having to be led around by blind people. I used to take pride in how damn good a scout I was, back when I was a hunter. I suppose I didn't realize exactly how much I enjoyed being in charge, choosing routes, and deciding where to go. Jelisaveta does a passable job of it, but I find myself judging her the whole damn way. A couple times she leads us towards something small that feels dangerous to me, and I end up whispering a suggestion, which she follows. That always makes me feel smug. I wonder if it's similar to how I enjoy seeing my revenants follow my orders. At least I get a lot more practice doing Melic things. The forest is as impossible to safely traverse as ever, but now that I can't just insta-murder everything in a wide radius without giving myself away, it's back to fighting dirty. By which I don't mean underhanded, I mean getting covered in mud, blood, and monster guts. It's making me really hungry. Lark too, though I suppose she's always hungry. This would probably go easier if you took your armor off, Lark, I comment idly, bashing my shield into the side of a beefy beetle monster and activating a rune on the front to blast it off balance, letting Bentley take a nasty stab at its eye. I'd rather practice like this, Lark answers firmly, smashing the hilt of her sword into one of the insect's spindly legs to snap the joint. Well, if you're embarrassed about eating monsters, we could all take a few bites of whatever gets killed. You know, in solidarity. Something about that makes her pause, though I'm not sure what. No thank you, I'm fine, she answers. Damn. It was worth a shot, though. We keep hacking away at the monster the slow way, eventually bringing it down before once again moving on. I'm breathing hard, still frustrated at my body's weakness as I move my metal dust around, recreating the various metamancy runes on my weapons and armor that got expended over the course of the fight. I'd be down, Xavier says, huffing with even more exhaustion than I am. To do the monster-eating thing, I mean. This guy isn't poisonous, right? I don't think so, Bentley answers, looking as refreshed as usual, the bastard. I think we tried cooking one once and it tasted awful, though. Wait, you did? Xavier asks. That's pretty great. Bentley shrugs. Penelope could make the meat safe, so Vita would always eat monster corpses instead of rations when we had the time for it, he explains. She wanted to save the rations for emergencies. Never seemed to mind the taste. Both Harvey and Lark briefly glance at me, which I interpret to probably be a bad sign. Come on, just because I suggested it as a joke. Dang it, I thought I'd been subtle enough. Jalissa clears her throat, though, stealing everyone's attention. No monster cooking, we're in a hurry. Let's cut the chatter and move on. This way. And so we continue, the journey both frustrating and long. My body needs to sleep every night, as I haven't even been storing or eating souls in fear it'll force me to hatch again. I roil at the idea of Lark serving as the overnight lookout rather than me almost as much as I've been frustrated with Jalissa doing the pathfinding, but exhaustion doesn't let me lament it for long, most nights. About 5 days into the journey, though, I find myself struggling to sleep because I'm busy trying to design an anti-bug ward to keep the damn things away from me. Having to consciously ignore them while I'm awake is frustrating enough, but the number of bug corpses I find nearby after sleeping some nights is legitimately dangerous to my disguise. At least Lark either hasn't noticed or hasn't deemed it odd enough to press me on. Or so I've assumed, but now that we're the only two people awake she hesitantly turns to confront me about something. Her soul isn't the easiest to read. "Hey Melik," she whispers quietly. "You tired at all?" "A little, I admit. Not enough to sleep yet, though." "What's up?" "I guess I dunno," she mutters, squirming a little as she looks away from me. I'm already out of my armor, since I'll hopefully be sleeping soon, but Lark hasn't taken hers off since we started the trip. Not even to pee, since she doesn't have to. Lucky duck. "I've what?" I prompt her. "You've been weirdly nice to me," she admits. "You used to hate me, and now you're just not being mean at all. You don't even glare at me anymore." I quirk an eyebrow. "Do you want me to glare at you?" I ask. "Well, no, I guess I'm just wondering, did something change?" I note with annoyance that our conversation just woke Jalissa, but she continues pretending to be asleep for now. I shrug, trying not to act as stressed out as I really am. I have no clue how Lark would react to the truth. "All of us nearly died," I say instead. "I think that changed the whole squad, honestly." "I guess," she admits. "Is that really all?" I sigh. "Well, here goes nothing. I can't think of a better time than now." "No," I admit. "That's not all." She tenses, leaning forward a bit. "The truth is," I continue, "I was partly a jerk because I find you really, really attractive." She stares at me. I stare back. Jalissa tries very, very hard not to laugh. "I don't understand how those two things relate," Lark eventually answers. "Honestly, I don't either," I answer. "Oh. Yeah." Another pause. "So I don't want to have sex with you," Lark ventures. I wince at the horrid mental image that evokes. "I very firmly do not want to have sex with you either," I agree. "But isn't that what attraction is?" she asks. "No. Well, kind of, I guess. But still no." "Oh." Jalissa unsuccessfully tries to disguise a choking laugh as a snore as Lark and I continue to stare awkwardly at each other. If she is, I hedge, she must be more interested in staying undercover than fighting us. Maybe she's making good on that alliance offer after all. What do you think would happen to her host, I guess? Jalissa would be a better person to ask about that, I dismiss. She's an inquisitor. Of course, Lark answers. Of course. Okay, well, I guess she's obviously suspicious. May as well do my own super subtle inquiries. If she is hiding among us, I ask, what do you think we should do? Lark looks away, staring out into the darkness as if she saw something. There's nothing over there, though. I don't know, she answers eventually. I didn't know the right thing to do then, I don't know it now. At least killing Vrothizo is something I don't have to feel bad about. Every Vrothizo except one, anyway, I answer, grinning at her. She turns back to me, a complicated buzz of sensations once again spreading through her soul. Yeah, she allows. I guess I can keep one of them alive, since my squad seems to like her so much. I nod. Good. Now I should probably get to bed. Okay, she acknowledges. Melik? Yeah. There's another pause, one where she's clearly building up to say something big. Good night, is all that actually comes out of her mouth. Good night, Lark, I tell her, and curl up in my bedroll before fitfully passing into slumber. I dream of Penelope holding me, up until the moment when she turns to ash. We all wake up in short order, packing up camp and setting off once again towards New Talsi or what's left of it. It's not long before Jalissa gives the first danger call. We've got incoming. We do indeed. Vrothizo, I whisper. It's a Vrothizo, Jalissa announces. Brace. Our shields go up, our swords are ready. Trained and drilled 1,000 times, the shield wall we form now has already killed a dozen other monsters on the way here, a few of them Vrothizo. But to my surprise, the mindless charge of our foe starts to slow. Something in its soul starts to subtly shift, the mindless hunger changing to an altogether different instinct I don't quite understand. Something's abnormal, I whisper, and Jalissa nods slightly, seeming thoughtful. Nothing we can do but keep our shields up and find out, though. Lark, Jalissa says nonchalantly. You smell different, today. Is now really the time to complain about bathing? Lark asks incredulously. Nope, Jalissa answers. The Vrothizo emerges from the foliage ahead of us, not in a whirlwind of teeth and fury but hesitantly, as if confused. It is an odd beast, as all Vrothizo tend to be, not much larger than a person, and almost simian-like with large, thick forelimbs that end in spiked, cudgel-like hooves. It has no head, instead simply a massive mouth splitting the area between its shoulders. Its hind legs are smaller, though wicked barbs on the calf lead me to believe they are no less deadly. And yet, it does not move to attack. I say it's confused, but I feel no thoughts from it, no greater intelligence that could be confused in the way a person would be. It is merely a bundle of instinct warring against a bundle of habits that, unexpectedly, no longer apply. A different stage in the monster's life suddenly calls to it, and it lacks the confidence born of repetition to act on it immediately. The hunger is quiet for a moment, and that stuns the beast enough that it needs a while to adapt. It plods slowly forward, its steps lagging until, finally, it stops. It sits down, hind legs spread. And something starts to expand between them. Why, though? Damn, Lark, you've gotten 2 propositions in 2 days, Jalissa jokes. You're one popular lady. Lark doesn't respond, though, seeming to have not even heard. Lark? Jalissa repeats. My Vrothizo squadmate's sword and shield clatter to the forest floor, a roiling mess of activity in her soul blocking out normal motor function. Best I can tell, she seems to be calculating. Judging. And all the while, the monster in front of us waits. Lark. Jalissa snaps in her giving an order voice. Talk to me, Lark. Report. That seems to catch on her consciousness a little, but the only response Lark has is a single word. Weak, she hisses. Her gauntlets creak as she flexes her fingers slowly, crouching low into a stance Melik knows well. It's one burned into his memory, after all, from moments before she shattered his ribs like I would a soul. Weak, she accuses, her voice full of wrath. And then she lunges. The other Vrothizo doesn't react in time, but Lark's first blow doesn't kill him, so the battle begins. Immediately, the rest of us jolt forward to assist her, but Jalissa holds out a hand to stop us, and I can hardly blame her. The 2 beasts are a flurry of indiscriminate violence, Lark barely even seeming to realize her armor is on as she tries to claw and bite and scratch with chitin coverings in the way. Only when one of the feral Vrothizo's cudgel arms smashes open her helmet and shatters her jaw clean off does she start to properly fight back, ripping off her own gauntlets and digging her claws deep into the side of his body so she can scrape off and swallow meat with only her top row of teeth. She starts to regrow, and each blow the monster lands only frees more of her from the armor that holds her back. By the end of it, the monster dies with her on top of his corpse, all 6 limbs digging into his flesh. Back arched and quills out, she lets out a horrid, triumphant screech before her rage dies down, leaving her heavy-breathed and horridly lucid. Lark, Jalissa says calmly. You with us, girl? Lark stutters, slowly staggering up to her feet. He thought he dared to. I realize, suddenly, that the cacophony now in her soul is a copy of what it was only moments ago. She has a perfect memory, I realize, and that means these strange flashes in her soul are her reliving a past event. Lark. I shout loudly, startling everyone but most importantly her. She stares at me, giving me her full attention for a moment. Here and now, I tell her. She nods slowly, purposefully pulling herself out of her mental memory hole. I'm okay now, she says softly. I think. Can you talk me through it now, or do you need to take a break? Jalissa asks. You're not in trouble, but we'll definitely have to report this. Yeah, Lark agrees. Yeah, I get it. I should be fine in a moment. She turns to the corpse, absent-mindedly grabbing it by the ankle and dragging it between a couple trees, which she proceeds to start flicking webbing at, crafting various traps for the monsters that will no doubt come sniffing out blood. With one of her arms she starts tearing off her mostly shattered armor, her silk clothing underneath stained black with blood. So, Lark says eventually. Sorry, everyone. That was different than it usually is, and it caught me off guard. Different how? Jalissa presses. I wasn't hungry, Lark says, seeming awed by even speaking the words. I was more angry. Indignant. That he thought he was enough to. She spares an awkward look back at the corpse. You know, she finishes. Welp, Xavier declares, I don't know what I expected that to be like for you, but I probably should have expected the terrifying murder sex. That's not we weren't. I know, chill, Xavier answers, holding up her hands. That was just regular murder. Still, though. It's not murder, I correct. It's monster slaying. Yes, you're right, but can everyone please stop nitpicking my word choice when I'm trying to be funny? This isn't a laughing matter, Xavier, Jalissa snaps. Lark, what do you think the odds are you'll lose control like this again? I don't know, she answers honestly. Less than this time, I think. I wasn't prepared for it. I've never been angry like that before, but I don't think it's that different from a regular frenzy. Jalissa glances slightly at me, and I give her a subtle shrug. I've never felt Lark in a hunger frenzy before, I can't really compare the two things. But the way her inner soul took precedence over her outer soul for a while is how I'd suspect it to work for her. After all, she's not frenzying so much as reverting to what every other Vrothizo does all the time. The Lark we know is the exception, not the default. Okay, Jalissa nods. Well, we'll know soon enough, because I suspect there will be a lot more Vrothizo between here and New Talsi. You tell me the moment you feel any urges of a similar nature, okay Lark? Melik, you keep an eye on her too. I smirk a little under my helmet. Unfortunately, my most useful eye for the job is a bit blinded right now, but I can still make it work. Yes ma'am, I agree. The forest doesn't take long to prove Jalissa right, but none of the Vrothizo that attack us between here and our destination are male. Probably because the male Vrothizo all died having sex or failing to. I feel like Penelope would have a lot of complaints about this reproductive strategy. It feels like the kind of thing she'd go on a tirade about. It's a fond thought, and one that carries me all the way until we're a handful of miles from New Talsi and my soul sense starts peeking inside what's left of the city. The answer to which is, of course, not much. As expected from a Vrothizo attack, I barely even feel a soul in the city, and the few that I do are so small as to barely even matter. Of course I'm not feeling the entire city yet, so maybe as we get closer I'll sense. Melik, someone asks, but I barely even hear the words. Oh, shit. Holy shit. Melik. Is something the matter? Jalissa asks. I realize, belatedly, that I've stopped marching. I shake my head and get back into formation. Sorry, just got distracted for a moment. What was the population of New Talsi, do you think? It was about 8,000, Lark answers. Why? No reason, I shrug, as nonchalantly as possible. Just it's a lot of people to lose. Yeah, Lark agrees. Yeah, it definitely is. Jalissa doesn't stop giving me a suspicious stare, though, and I don't blame her. She should know, though, so I tell her. White, I whisper.